What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm John Gleason, the Godless Engineer, and I'm here with Matt Dillahunty, and we are here to take your calls. The number is 720-619-2288, and we have a number of topics that we got rotating down there on the banner. We want to know if God is real, and also, should we be Christians? I don't know if we should. Are you going to hell? Are we going to hell? Is everybody going to hell? And then, of course, the God of the Bible is awful. We've got a lot of different topics today. We would love to talk to all of y'all about it. And if you want to call in and talk to us, you can. The number's easy to punch in at 720-619-2288. Or if you are outside of the North America area, you can use that link in the description. But make sure you are outside of North America or whatever, and you'll be able to use that link. Otherwise, you're going to have to call in using 720-619-2288. Today, we wanted to let you guys know that the God of the Bible, as well as all Abrahamic gods, are pretty awful.
I just broke my microphone stand.
How you doing today, Matt?
Oh, I'm doing fan-damn-tastic. My audio stuff broke, and that's why we were late. So, and now the microphone stand has decided to break. I started rat day early, so I was out working. I got more to finish, and then I'm going to be well, it's going to be a busy week. How are you, John?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, I've still got a bum arm, so I'm nursing that. I was also sick for the past couple of days with a really bad sinus thing, and so I was pounding the Dayquil away, as well as I was doubling up. I was doing the Mucinex, that's just the expectorant version of Mucinex, and then also the Dayquil, and so I was like really trying to drain my head out because I've got kind of a long day today, streaming wise. But yeah, I'm totally doing all right, ready for the calls to start coming in. Which I do want to say that when Matt talks about Rat Day, I've actually been to Matt's house and have seen his rat set up. And like, that is no joke, like a massive undertaking that they have to do every week. So I totally understand like the amount of work that goes into that.
We actually got almost all of it done in fairly short order today. But
that's good.
I got basically, once this show's over, I have to go back out and do some of it. But also, Arden's getting ready for an event, and that's going to be keep us busy. And oh man, so hey, we don't have callers yet, so let's do this. Oh, we have somebody that's screening, and that's always good. I know John already talked us through everything, but you know, just for fun, let me point out that what we're looking for is, well, I'm going to be even more relaxed than normal today. And by that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get pissed, but I mean relaxed in the requirements for today. Ideally, what we'd love is for people to call in and explain to us what they believe about God, supernatural, whatever, that we may not agree with. And then explain either, preferably both, but at least either, why they believe it or why they think we should believe it. Because it's entirely possible that, for example, you might be convinced that there's a God, and your reasons might be so personal and esoteric that they wouldn't apply to us. And so you'd be like, hey, I believe for this reason, but I understand you guys shouldn't believe that. And ideally, I'd love to know why anyone and everyone should believe this. Because generally speaking, if something's true, like whatever it is you pick out, if it's true, then it should be accessible to pretty much anybody. And I get it. So not everybody has all the information, not everybody has all of the understanding. But, for example, the Earth is not flat. The Earth is an oblate spheroid that spins on an axis and orbits the sun. And the moon orbits the Earth. And this is how the positional parts of this are how we get eclipses, for example. All of that is information that is available to everybody the same way. And I know that some of you out there already, and you're saying, hey, God's not like that. I agree. I agree that God's not like that because A, fictional things and unverifiable things and untestable and unfalsifiable things are not accessible in the same way that the Earth being an oblate spheroid is accessible. The issue then becomes, what reason do you have for believing it? And it's been a weird week because I maybe the folks watching will remember Alex O'Connor had done a video with Joseph Schmid, who's a PhD philosophy student at Princeton, I think. And they had decided to call me out on my position that claims aren't evidence. And even in the initial video, Joseph pointed out that, if Matt means claims aren't evidence for the claim itself, then okay, maybe I guess I can understand that. I did a response video because they had called me out. I didn't hear from Alex because nobody hears from Alex. But I did hear from Joseph. And what we did is we had a phone call where we spoke for a while. And I noted that this comes down to some slight differences in epistemology. He acknowledged during our conversation that in what I was saying and what I meant, I was correct. Because what I'm saying is the claim is not in and of itself evidence that the claim is true. Instead, what happens is we smuggle in a lot of underlying information. If the claim were evidence that the claim is true, then that means a lie is evidence that the lie is true, and an error is evidence that the error isn't an error. And that's why when you're looking at claims and evidence, I may not end up doing a whole other video about this. There was somebody who threw a fit the other day and wanted to, and I offered to debate them. I offered to go on whatever show they wanted. I offered to have them call in, but they wanted to just sit there and call me names on Brady's wall. And I was like, okay, whatever. But Joseph Schmid is now a Catholic. He posted a video, I think it was Monday. But maybe it wasn't Monday. It was sometime last week. I know because Paula G had told me about it. And I haven't had a chance to watch the video. I've been too busy. But my understanding, and if I'm misrepresenting it, that's fine. My understanding is that he found the various miracle claims were best answered by the fact that God is real, Jesus is Lord, and we should all submit to Rome. I don't know if or when I'm going to get a chance to go through Joseph's justification for it, but as the whole point of our conversation was about his flawed epistemology that smuggles in evidence. So, for example, he said, hey, if my friend comes and tells me he just bought a soccer ball, that's evidence that he just bought a soccer ball. And I'm like, the claim itself is not evidence that he just bought a soccer ball. Because first of all, the claim contains information that you compare to the world. Because if the claim, I just bought a soccer ball, is evidence that he just bought a soccer ball, then a lie that he just bought a soccer ball is also evidence that he just bought a soccer ball. An error is also evidence that he just bought a soccer ball. And so what's happening here is you're evaluating his claim based on what you know about him, and is he, likely to be reliable? What you know about people in general, and that people purchase soccer balls. Because if your generally truthful friend comes up to you and says, I just bought a new soccer ball, first of all, it's no big deal. Part of the evaluation is, if I believe my friend, what do I have to change about my understanding of reality? And the answer is nothing. It is not in conflict with reality. And if I find out later that my friend was lying or mistaken, that'll be new information to judge my friend. If your friend comes up to you and says, I was abducted by aliens last night and probed by an alien that looks exactly like your grandmother. Okay, None of that is consistent with facts of reality. And so the nature of the surrounding information for that claim makes that claim less likely to be warranted in accepting than the claim I just bought a soccer ball. And so in our heads, because we take shortcuts, we don't analyze the stuff the way I'm doing it right now to describe it. We go, if somebody says, hey, I was abducted by aliens, we're like, yeah, I don't believe that. Hey, I bought a soccer ball. Yeah, I believe that. And it has nothing to do with the claim because the claim is the thing we're evaluating. And you are now evaluating his claim that he bought a soccer ball based on evidence and information that you have from all around the world. Anyway, I say all this um, because, man, now that Joseph, who we all knew was leaning theist, I was surprised that it was Catholic, kind of. Now that he's gone theist, the Philbro douchebags. By the way, I'm sure one of them will call today. Hey, Matt, I'm talking to you. But they're all thrilled, and they're trying to say, "See, there are atheists who have good epistemology." No, the fact that he now agrees with you on the Catholic Church does not mean his epistemology was good. It also doesn't mean that claims are evidence. If you want to talk, and by the way, one of the things, and I'll end here because we've got calls lined up. One of the things that they're doing is saying, Matt thinks that testimony is useless. No, I don't. Never said anything like that. Well, if you say claims aren't evidence, then testimonies must be useless. No, the testimony in and of itself doesn't count as evidence, but the testimony compared to the facts of reality allows evidence. It's not that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. All claims require the same evidence before they're warranted. But the difference between I bought a soccer ball and I got probed anally by an alien that looks like your grandmother is that one of them already has mountains of evidence around it. Soccer balls exist. We all know this. People buy them. It's mundane. And so its bar for the amount of evidence to achieve it has already been met. And so the only defeaters really are that your friend's a liar or mistaken. But the bar for the alien abduction hasn't got this bulk of evidence for it. And so we say this claim is extraordinary and therefore requires extraordinary evidence only because the claim is such that it is inconsistent with all of the available evidence that we already have. And so in that front, colloquially, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but the claims are extraordinary because they're not already supported by evidence. A mundane claim, I bought a soccer ball, has mountains of evidence for it, and we are lazy thinkers. And so we smuggle all that evidence in and just say that claim's believable. Why? Well, the claim is evidence. No, the claim has evidence. Anyway,
Yeah, I was going
that
to
was
say, Matt.
an entire dissertation that I wasn't planning to do today, but fuck it.
Well, I was going to say, I actually saw people. I didn't actually see Alex and Joe's video, but I did see other people that were reacting to it and basically taking a pop shot at you for simply stating that claims aren't evidence. And it's kind of like, yeah, claims aren't evidence. It's like, because I was talking with KC about that, and it's like, well, there's surrounding information that can support the claim as being most likely to be true. But that doesn't make the claim evidence. And then I was trying to like discern between anecdotal evidence and like claims and everything like that. And I don't know, we got into a pretty deep discussion about it, which I find that it's totally ridiculous for people to be taking a shit on you for saying that, claims aren't evidence. Like, I feel like that should be, understood.
Yeah, and I'm fine with testimonial evidence. Each of those claims comes in with whatever weighted evidence they have behind them. And then you consider those. If 20 people come in and tell me, holy crap, there was just an accident outside, I'm just going to say that's 20 claims. It doesn't mean that's 20 times as much evidence for the fact that it occurred, but the 20 separate observations are worth considering, and they're all consistent with reality. That's where we go with, hey, anyway, we have calls. And if you're ready,
Yeah, I'm good.
let's jump in. All right. Sandwich, pronouns are he, him, is calling in to say that God is real. Hey, Sandwich, you're on with John and Matt. Which God are we talking about?
God. There's only one God.
Okay, what can you tell us about this God? Because I'm not aware of any God. So if you just say there's only one God, I don't know what you're talking about still. So go ahead and tell us anything that you know about this God and then how you know it's real.
First of all, what's the point of this show?
I'm sorry. The point of the show is for you to call in.
What's the point of the show?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm answering your question. Do you want to answer your question or would you like to be hung up on immediately?
Yeah.
Cool. So the answer to your question is the purpose of this show is to engage with people who don't believe the same thing we do and for them to explain what they believe, why they believe it, and why they think we should believe it. Just like we said at the intro and like we've done for years. So you're calling in to say that God is real. And we're asking you which God, and you started off with one God, which doesn't tell us anything. Because like I'm a former Christian and was going to be a pastor, and now I'm an atheist because I figured out my previous beliefs weren't justified. And then when I studied other things, I found that there doesn't seem to be any justification for any of them. But I could be wrong. So it's your job now to show me where I'm wrong.
Well, how many callers have you called and talked to? How long have you been doing this?
23 years.
20. I'm talking about this particular show.
Motherfucker.
Oh, this particular show? I don't know. I've probably been doing this one for 6 or 7. But I did another show every Sunday for 18 years before that.
Okay, so what's the point of this show? Like, I feel like this show is disingenuous.
Sandwich.
I feel like if you talk to all these people,
hey, Sandwich. You're not for real, and so we're probably not going to engage with you. But hang on for just a second. I'm going to mute. No, you're not for fucking real. You're a troll. You're a dipshit. I'm going to mute you for a second, and you're going to listen to me, and then I'm going to take you off mute. Thank you for starting off the show so wonderfully, because you're literally saying, what's the purpose of this show? When in reality, I already answered that question thoroughly. So the purpose of this show, which I'll answer again, is for you to defend your claim that God is real. In a minute, I'm going to unmute you. And when I do, you are either going to defend your claim that God is real, or everybody on the planet will realize that you're not sincere. You are not interested in an honest discussion. You are not interested in actually defending your views, and you will be just another forgotten, failed caller that failed to defend their God beliefs over the span of 23 years. Now, 23 years, that's a long time for me to do this. But the reality is these conversations and discussions have been happening for just about as long as humans have existed. And so when you look at things like, for example, I don't know if you believe in the God of the Bible, but the Bible's a horrific book. There's factual errors and contradictions within the first 6 or 7 verses or so. The God of that book is just a moral monster, but maybe that's not the God you're asking for. Maybe you're advocating for the God of Islam or some notion of Scientology really doesn't quite have a God in that sense, but there's something God-like. Who knows? Maybe you're advocating for a God that's not part of any major world religion. But some of us have spent our lives studying this stuff and studying good epistemology. And we're not only here humbly acknowledging that we might be wrong. Maybe you have information that we don't have. Maybe you have, maybe you understand a flaw in our reasoning or our epistemology that we've somehow missed. But I'm really having a hard time taking you seriously when you call in to say that God is real. And the first question's out. Not only do you fail to show that you have any comprehension of either the history or regular versions of these conversations, but then you ask me the same question twice, which is what's the purpose of the show? And then you want to quiz me on how long I've been doing this. Let me explain a couple things to you. How long I've been doing this is irrelevant to whether or not you have evidence for a God. How long I've been doing this is irrelevant to whether or not you have any understanding or capability to have discussions like this. Nothing about who I am or my life or what I understand or how long I've done this can possibly be relevant to whether or not you have a good reason to believe in a God. So we'll set all that aside. I'm done answering questions about me and the show and everything else. And when I bring you back in, just because, I'd like to start the show off well. Um, and, you know, see, I do this in my real name. You can go to Wikipedia and look me up if you'd like to. I lecture and debate and tour the world having those debates and discussions. I'm a sincere former Christian. That is a bit of a philosophy geek. I teach this stuff. And I understand that this is probably your first time, if you're even sincerely engaging, but it's probably your first time engaging on these topics. And it's a little difficult. So rather than having to put up with me or even a tag team, I'm going to take you off mute in a couple seconds. There will be a beep. And I'd like for you to explain to John what God you think we should believe in and why. And as long as you don't mention me, and maybe even if you do, I'll just sit here quietly because it's clear you and I have started off on a bad foot. And I don't believe you. I think you're a liar and a troll, and I might be wrong. So I'm going to let you interact with John in the hopes that you can show that I'm completely wrong. You're not a liar and a troll, that you actually do have evidence for God and you are sincere in defending it. So here we go. I'm gonna unmute you. It's time for Sandwich, ladies and gentlemen. Sandwich is calling in from Florida, pronouns are he, him. He's a theist who says God's real. Sandwich, you're on with John.
Man, you talked a whole lot.
Hey, Sandwich, I want to say that it's really
Listen.
disingenuous of you to call in under the name Sandwich.
Yeah, it's a clever
That's
name.
pretty disingenuous. That's kind of a bitch move, isn't it?
How about y'all just be honest and say what this call show really is?
No, we are being honest. How about you be honest and tell us why you think that God is real? Like, what is the best evidence that convinces you that your God is real?
Well, if you talk to all these people, you're not going to want to try to hear us out anyway.
Sandwich, I'm trying to talk to you right now. I want to know what your evidence is that God is real. I'm here for it. This is me being as not disingenuous as possible, right?
I'm not
try
a
to
troll.
convince me.
I'm not a troll.
Okay, fine. You're not a troll. Whatever the fuck. I don't care. Just tell me what convinces you that God exists. You're whatever kind of God. I don't know what kind of like. Is it a God in heaven that likes to peg you or something?
Like damn. All right, you've been doing this for 3 years. You've been talking to all these people giving you evidence, and you don't want to hear it. So just call the show for what it is. You hate Trump supporters.
No,
that's what hold
on. No,
well, wait. I do. I absolutely do hate Trump supporters. That's a fact. That's a fact. But that's not what that's not what this show. I'm sorry. No. I'm going to mute you again, you little bitch. Because welcome to Showtime. Hi, you dishonest motherfucker who had no interest in defending theism, but you're just a MAGA shithead who wants to whine about it. I absolutely hate you. I absolutely hate people who continue to support fascists, to continue to attack the marginalized, who continue to run up the deficit and the debt to record numbers, who continue to support ICE, who are murdering people in the street, who continue to support all kinds of things. But you know what? This is the Sunday show. You might be thinking about other shows on the line, like, for example, my Wednesday night show, The Hang Up, where we spend a little bit more time talking about politics. The Sunday show is not and has never been focused on politics. As a matter of fact, I've been doing this longer than Trump has been in politics in any sense at all. So for you to pretend like I'm doing this, that my entire life's work over the past 22, 23 years is because I hate Trump supporter, that just shows how stupid you and other Trump supporters are. Because the fact of the matter is, I didn't hate Trump supporters until recently. I despised Trump and his administration and his band of liars, which you are a part of. You see, because you called in and you told the call screener that you wanted to defend the concept that God is real. But in reality, you've done nothing but try to suggest that we're liars who only do the show because we hate Trump supporters. Here, I have a question for you real quick. Let me unmute you. Sandwich, of the two of us, who was the only one to mention Trump, or who mentioned Trump first?
Was I correct though? I was pretty.
Okay. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you for showing us all how dishonest and repeatedly dishonest and stupid Trump supporters are. Yes, you are correct when you said that I hate Trump supporters. You were incorrect when you said that's what the show is about. I would rather not have the Sunday show talk about Trump or MAGA at all. But you MAGA dipshits keep calling in, whining, because his poll numbers are in the tank. The Democratic Socialists are starting to win more elections. Things are starting to change. And you're so broken. Here. I have another question for you. Here we go. Are you ready for the question sandwich?
You don't want to hear nothing I gotta say. I'm a Trump supporter. What's
No,
the
no,
fucking
no.
point
I genuinely want to hear. Hey,
What's the
hey,
point?
sandwich,
What's
sandwich,
the point?
sandwich, sandwich. Are trans women women?
No, they're men.
Okay, so
That's just
cool.
dumb as fuck.
Thanks. I already knew you were going to say that. The fact of the matter is you are wrong. You are wrong on with regards to science and sociology and psychology. And all you've done is demonstrate that you're another MAGA dipshit. And I have your phone number. We can talk privately, but we're not going to talk on the show. So here, let me jot down your number. And right before I ban you from the show, which is going to happen here in just a second, I make sure I got it down right. If you'd like, I will text you from my burner phone and we can have a sincere discussion about how stupid you are, how bigoted you are, how broken you are, and how eventually all of you little bigoted fascists are going to get what's due you. Meanwhile, I'm going to move on to actually talk to people who sincerely give a shit about defending religion and God and the supernatural, because that's not you. You couldn't argue your way out of a wet paper bag. I'm not even convinced you believe in a God, which is why you gave such a ridiculously pre-K answer. Actually, it's probably post-K, because pre-K kids just tend to go with whatever God they're, well, that's just a God. And then it's usually when you get towards, let me get to a broader thing of, oh, I don't buy into this religion. I buy into the true religion, the one true God. You're not going to get to say another word on the entirety of this show, Sam, which I don't know why you haven't hung up yet. But clearly you have a little kink, a little fetish. You want daddy to school you. When you go jerk off after this call, and when you go to your MAGA friends to tell them how you came and owned the atheists, you came and owned the libs, just know that I won't be thinking of you. Maybe ever. All right. Let's go ahead and ban sandwich. Hey.
Matt, they pay top dollar to get like shit on like that. Like that, yeah.
I know.
I mean that, yeah.
I'm gonna set up like some kind of only bards or something where for the people, yeah, that's what we have to call it, so that something that for the people who just want to get like they're looking for a dom, a daddy dom, just to make them acknowledge how stupid and bigoted they are. I mean, is there anybody in chat who wouldn't have predicted exactly how he was going to answer the question about trans folks after whining about, but you guys hate MAGA? Yeah, I do. I hate fascists. I hate Nazis. I hate liars. The nice thing is that I'm speaking kind of generally, because there are former fascists and former liars and former MAGA who don't hate. You can get better. It's possible there, Sandwich, for you to go out and learn something, for you to, I don't know, learn a little about empathy, learn some more about who's marginalized, but also there are people who would immediately recognize when you call into this show and suggest that the only reason we do this show is because we hate MAGA. Man, we could just do a quick analytic of the calls we take and the ones we don't take, the people we engage with and the people we don't engage with, the number of times. Don't get me wrong, we'll take political calls on occasion, but when we started the show, I don't know, John, did either of us mention anything about wanting to talk to MAGA?
No, I don't remember talking about MAGA, mentioning MAGA or anything like that.
I don't remember saying I wanted to even talk about politics. All we said was we're looking for people to defend their God belief. But I have to admit, the number of people and the quality of thinkers that are in any way attempting to defend their God belief um, has dipped pathetically. It is very difficult to get sincere people to call in and actually defend their God beliefs and have an honest conversation. And what that means is we built, the world, not just the line, we built an online discussion community where it seems the only thing that matters is click and shock. Yeah, it's really sad. We've got an atheist on hold, and I guess we'll go ahead. We have one caller right now, and that's Will, who we're going to take. I'm just like every week. I'm going to declare victory because people lie and say they're going to call in and defend God, and they don't. And that means the people who might want to defend God, they're unwilling to. I mean, I don't even look at debates as win-lose, but we've completely won the debate. And when somebody like Joseph, who we were talking about earlier, becomes a Catholic, evidently because he can't think of a better explanation for miracle claims other than they were true and from the divine, rather than they're not true. We don't necessarily know what the truth is about them. And that's a PhD philosophy student at Princeton. The quality of thinkers engaged in religious discussion has dipped dramatically, which is why we're constantly bombarded with Philbros, who don't understand sound epistemology at all. And then the average person who got out of church and then went to Perkins and then after that happened to stumble across a show and they've never had the conversation before. I'd rather talk to those people anyway, because I think they're reachable and I think that they are capable of understanding things that the Philbros have managed to think themselves out of. Because the very notion, see, science cannot affirm the supernatural. Until we have a way to test and falsify supernatural claims, you do not even get to consider them as candidate explanations for any observation. It could be that the supernatural is real. Maybe there's a God that's doing something. Maybe there was a God that decided Sandwich really needed to call in today. But you don't even get to consider that a candidate explanation until you demonstrate that it is a possible, plausible, likely candidate explanation.
You know, I think all that Dr. Sandwich did, or Sandwich, whatever his name is, I think all he did was prove that mayonnaise flavored sandwiches suck.
Well, hey, we got Will calling from Texas. Will, pronouns are he, him, and wants to talk about, well, go ahead, Will. You're on with John and Matt.
Howdy. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good.
Terrible now.
Hopefully I can try and make it a little better at least. So I tried to keep things concise for the screener, but just try and lay out what I'm asking specifically. I believe all three of us can agree on the fact that Christianity, or really theism as a whole, is detrimental to society. I feel like we can agree on that.
I would.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I know I've heard callers before talking about all the good that theism can do, specifically Christianity, because that's most of who calls. But what I want to more understand is if acknowledging any good whatsoever that a theism could do is dangerous as far as how we develop as rational thinkers. Basically, I don't know if I'm getting that across right.
I'm having a hard time. Will, your audio is really strange.
Oh, I can fix that. How's that?
Yeah, that's better.
That's a lot better. So restate
Okay.
what it is that you wanted to talk about.
So basically, it was we have plenty of atheists now coming out, like Richard Dawkins or even Bart Ehrman, who are coming out and say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm a cultural Christian," or I'm a Christian atheist, or something along those lines. And so we have a bunch of
Did
theists,
Ehrman do that
Christians,
too?
hopping on that.
I don't recall that.
I don't recall Ehrman doing that, but go ahead.
He's done it on his podcast a few times. He says he would consider himself a Christian atheist. Basically, he believes in he believes that the tenets of
that's kind of
Christ are
dumb as fuck
good,
to me.
but he doesn't agree that Jesus is God, right? But the whole thing is obviously nuances.
I haven't heard him.
Sorry,
I haven't heard him express that, and he didn't express it when he was here. But okay, whatever. Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. So, and you also have Ehrman coming out with his book, Love Thy Stranger. In this day and age, I feel like nuance is dead. And so the nuance that Christians would get out of a book like Love Thy Stranger, they've basically taken it over and said, "Oh, see, this is good. This is all good." And they try to conflate it with the entirety of the belief itself. So what I want to understand better is, do you believe that any acknowledgement of the good that can arise from theism, in this case Christianity, but any theism really will work, is that dangerous, or is that more a matter of people need to understand nuance?
I still am waiting for an example of good that comes out of theism, because what I see is theistic religions asserting that good comes from them when it doesn't, and instead co-opting things. So, like, for example, the moral views of Christianity, Judaism, Islam are a mix. There are, of course, decent things in all of them, but they're not tied in any way to the truth of that religion. The fact that, if I made a list of 10 things, I could make a list of 10 things that are truer and better than any random 10 things you pick from any of those religions. And none of them are tied to me. You don't have to be a Mahdist or advocate for Mahdism to say, hey, owning people is wrong. So what good thing is tied to theism? Because for the people when people say they're culturally Christian, they mean very different. Some of them mean different things from it. So, for example, Dawkins, who's transphobic and not worth listening to, now he's running around saying he's culturally Christian, but he doesn't buy into the tenets of Christianity. And you could cherry pick whatever you wanted out of Christianity and say, ooh, hey, love thy neighbor. Maybe that's what Ehrman's doing with Love Thy Stranger. Hey, be nice to people, turn the other cheek. None of those things are tied to, there's no requirement for you to be a Christian or a Jew or anything else to believe those things. And so why give credit to the religions and then take in all the baggage that comes with them?
I agree with you on that point.
And you're right.
You wanted an example. So in Love Thy Stranger, Bart goes in and he documents how the early church was responsible for the formation of hospitals in the Roman Empire after Constantine had formally taken over. Things in that nature.
What is the religious tenet that has a religion form a hospital, because the only reason I can see that religions formed hospital is because people needed hospitals and they were in the privileged position to be able to do it because they were getting privileges that were being denied others. So somebody messaged me recently with an open letter. This person's nuts, and I'm not going to go into it beyond that, but it's, yes, religious organizations and communities have built schools and hospitals, but they did it for their own interest, and they did it because there are good people involved in those things that want to do good. There's nothing within Christianity that says, go ye therefore unto all the world and build hospitals.
I think I'm getting what you're saying. If I can try and basically the argument here is the concept of Christianity, the idea of Christianity, is not responsible whatsoever for any of these things. It is more people are acting within, if we can give it a phrase, the goodness of their heart. Basically, is that about right? I hope.
I'm just saying, there's nothing about, so when you take the package of things that like Christianity and Judaism, let's say, we'll just stick with biblical claims. So if you go through the Bible, there's a bunch of good things in there, and there's a bunch of awful things in there. And I've been an advocate of keep the good wherever you find it and get rid of the awful. Why on earth would I do something that I agree, like if I agree with some tenet of Christianity, which I do, why on earth would I credit Christianity with that? It's not like that's its origin. It's not like that's its foundation. And when I do so, it comes with all kinds of other baggage. If I'm encouraging people to be more forgiving, or don't murder people, why would I credit Christianity or Judaism with either of those?
Okay. I got what you're saying now. However, this is more. I kind of feel like we've gotten away from what I was trying to ask about. It's more the fact that if we were to attribute anything to a particular theistic ideology, for instance, which obviously you don't, because of the fact that you can find those things in virtually any one, which makes it not exclusive to one theology or the other. But if we, even colloquially, if we were to attribute those things to a particular theistic belief, then in that case, would it be dangerous as far as trying to find where the actual impetus lied for that particular good act or that particular good thing?
Well, so Will,
yeah.
The problem that I have with handling religion like that is that you're not actually, the religion doesn't actually ground its like moral conclusions or any kind of moral foundation and how it affects your fellow humans, right? It doesn't ground anything in how good or bad the action is as far as the the end results of it. Like, how does that affect humanity on the whole? It grounds it in whether or not a god, a deity, right, likes it or not, essentially. And so you can come up with like, oh, this, I interpret my God to totally affirm the LGBTQ community. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find actual scripture to support that, but you could claim that your God does that. But that's just essentially routing what you've already determined to be like a good progressive thing through this entity And it's really not necessary, because you can ground, affirming and supporting the LGBTQ community through more humanistic reasons. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense here, but essentially, I think that if you're routing it through a religion, then you're betting on people not using that religion in order to push their own agendas that are very not humanistic, that are detrimental to society and the human population and other sentient beings out there at large. So like, I feel like it's much better to not loop it through theism and instead just ground it in something that's actually based in reality, like how actions affect, the people in your society, in your life and all that. Like, I feel like there's just much better ways in which to ground that, as opposed to just trying to convince people that God really wants this. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, and I think you've answered my question. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Sweet. Well, on that note, thanks, Will. We still don't have any callers, and this is wild. I'm gonna let you go, Will. John and I are gonna talk about the fact that we don't have callers. But it's funny because I'm watching chat, and there's somebody in there named Justa87 who says that he's my final boss, but I'm not ready, but he's refusing to call in. So we timed him out to see if maybe Justa87. Then there's somebody called Friendly Aryan who suggests that the problem with atheists is that we only follow science to a limit, and we won't recognize that. So he's like a race realist. He doesn't recognize the concept of social constructs with regard to. So I had to time that person out as well. All of them are willing to come in, but when your name is Friendly Aryan and your Google logo is literal Nazi emblems, and you're wanting to call in, it's clear that you guys are just trolling. Because the reality is, there are differences in human beings within what you would call racial groups that are as varied as the ones that you would say are distinct between them. But also, I don't need white supremacists to call in and show how stupid they are. We already know it. It's hilarious.
I figured you're going to stop at, we don't need white supremacists.
Wait, I'm just gonna engage with chat since these little bitches are too afraid to call in. Here we go. Billy Kidd says, okay, one topic maybe. Matt, when you say you would believe, because a little while earlier, somebody was saying that, atheists wouldn't even believe, they don't actually care about evidence. And I said, if you provide evidence for God, I would absolutely believe that a God exists, but that doesn't mean I would worship it. So Billy Kidd says, you would believe. I'm one to think it may be impossible to ever prove God in the sense of a deity. There are almost an infinite amount of natural explanations. That's not my problem. I don't know why. You didn't tag me, but I'm assuming I'm the Matt you're talking to since you didn't tag anybody. It's not the problem of the atheist or the rationalist or the skeptic that the claim is one that doesn't provide supporting evidence. So the fact that you or whoever, I don't know what you believe, Billy, but the fact that people that you don't think it's possible to prove God makes my case for me. If it is in fact impossible to demonstrate the truth of the God proposition, then as a skeptic and as a rational person, it is by definition unwarranted to reach the conclusion that a God exists. If it's not a rational conclusion, you are being irrational. Now, you can say all day long that, you don't care if you're being rational. Cool. You're just going to go with whatever feels good. Cool. I'm not. And so I didn't start a show to say, hey, call in and tell me how good it feels to believe bullshit. I know how good it feels to believe bullshit. I've believed bullshit many times. I believed the God bullshit for years. Although chat just completely stopped, so I don't know if they did a slowdown. So disappointing.
Yeah. If y'all would like to call in and try to convince us that God exists, our number is 720-619-2288, or you can hit up that description for that link to call in over the web caller. If you're outside of North America, please do call in. I saw a few people in the chat, saying, I dare you to convince me out of atheism. And I would like that too. If you think that you can convince us away from atheism, we would love to hear what your best evidence is, but not
Somebody
claims.
said the idea that atheists, although they spelled it wrong, man, it's wild to have atheists continue to spell that word wrong. But the idea that atheists don't care about evidence is theoretical. Okay, that's, I guess, Jay Cool, not only do you not know how to spell atheist, but you don't know what, I guess, colloquially theoretical? I don't know. Here's the thing. Anybody who's out there saying atheists don't care about X is already wrong. That is, you're basically engaged in a stereotype. We're not all atheists, or even all atheists don't agree on everything. John and I don't agree on everything. Oh, wait, Billy Kidd says, I'm an atheist and skeptic. I'm not sure if there's any amount of evidence a theist or anyone could present to make me believe. I'm not either. You're curious what it would be. So would I. Sorry, I got the impression that you were suggesting you were in disagreement. Well, there's a couple call screeners, or a couple calls screening right now. While they're screening, I'm going to keep engaging with chat, not because I don't want to engage with John, but because there are people here saying things in chat, and it's just amusing.
Yeah, no, I totally think the chat's way more interesting than me right now.
Me too. I mean, more interesting than me as well. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's one in the screening room, and it's going to be a theist, and hopefully it's good. It's over for theism. What's weird is, I'm a false prophet of Fergal, Burgle, Minerva, Burgle. Okay. Oh, somebody else is a false prophet. You tagged them. See, this is why I don't engage with chat that much. So, yeah, as Elliot was pointing out, I don't know what evidence would convince me, but if there is an actual God, I would expect that God to know what evidence would convince me. That's been my answer for ages. So, as a matter of fact, it's almost worth asking, hey, do you think God would know exactly what evidence would convince me? I would think any theist worth their salt would probably say yes. And then the question seems to be, why hasn't that God presented that evidence? And if your answer is he doesn't want me to believe, cool. That's been my position for ages. Hi, Matt. I have an argument that no gods can exist. Would you take my call and tell me where I'm wrong? I can tell you where you're wrong without taking that call. You'd have to define gods very narrowly because there are a number of different God concepts. And some of them, I'm not convinced you could ever say that they could not exist. So, for example, I exist. How do you prove I'm not a God? But if you want to call in and take a shot at it, I suppose you can, but we got theists, and this one's screened. So let's get back to work.
Okay.
Hello, we've got Harvey calling in from Canada. Pronouns are him, calling in to discuss the existence of God. Hey, Harvey, you're on with John and Matt. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Matt. How are you guys?
Doing all right.
Tired, but, I'll be okay.
Well, hopefully I can keep you on your toes and wake you up a little bit.
Cool. Which God are we talking about, and what did you want to say about it?
Well, as far as a concept of God, I guess for the sake of this discussion, I would be arguing for just a generic theistic God.
Why? Last time you called, you were talking about the historical reliability of the Gospels. Did we debunk that already?
No, I actually hung up before you were able to take the call. I kind of got tired of waiting. There was a long wait.
That I understand.
So we didn't get a chance.
But you get to decide what you get to decide what you want to talk about. So a general theistic God, what would you say the properties of that God are?
Well, first, in determining the properties of such a God, we first need to describe the being that he does not exist within the confines of space and time. Not to say that this God doesn't intervene and interact with our concept of time, but it exists independently of time. It's spaceless, immaterial, and as far as that goes, basically it would be an unembodied mind of great power that exists independent of space and time.
So
Okay.
I have a problem, and I always run into this problem whenever somebody wants to define God as timeless or existing outside of time. I don't know how that works, because like if you take the idea of like a picture that is a snapshot in time, literally one particular instant in time, in that snapshot, time doesn't exist. That is essentially what you're claiming for God. There's no time for God to make any kind of decisions or to affect anything or to cause anything to happen. There's just no way for him to do that. So I guess, can you explain to me what this magical version of time is that is still time but yet not time?
Well, what I would say is that as far as God not being able to complete any such action because time doesn't exist yet, I would say the first moment God does something, the first moment of creation, God enters time at t0.
Okay, so God's not timeless. He's not eternal. God's not eternal.
He's not bound to time, but he can act within time.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
But when he's not interacting within time, how could it possibly be meaningful to say that something exists without time? Because existence is necessarily temporal. If you exist for 0 seconds, that's functionally identical to non-existence, right?
Correct, but I think we could agree that there has to be something that always existed. Either the universe is eternal, or there's a God that's eternal, or there's some other thing that was always eternal because
no.
So you're
okay. I'll let you. I'm sorry. So we don't necessarily agree that something necessarily always existed, but I don't see why it wouldn't be the case to just say we know the universe exists, and we know that the current cosmological models have space-time where there is no time within space-time when the universe didn't exist, and it is nonsensical to talk about time before time or time outside of time. So why not just go with either A, I have no idea whether or not the universe existed eternally, or B, the universe probably existed eternally, and we shouldn't think that there's something else that existed eternally outside of it until there's evidence for it. Why aren't those two preferable to concluding that there's a timeless God?
Well, I would say we have good scientific and philosophical reasons for concluding that the universe is not eternal.
No, we don't. I mean,
we don't? Do you care to back that up?
Well, I'm not an expert, but I mean, I could get somebody like Blitz or Dr. Aaron Adair or any of these people to talk about both A and B types of time. And the bulk of physicists looking at cosmology have not been able to conclude that the universe didn't exist at some point in some way. So the math breaks down at the Planck time. And so all we can do is describe the expansion of the universe from whatever the state was prior to that. But we can't talk about whether or not that state was eternal or not. We don't have any way to assess that. So when you say science has concluded that the universe had a beginning, the only thing that science has concluded about the universe and I'm going to put it in air quotes, beginning, is the beginning of the expansion of space-time, but not the beginning of the substance of the universe. Right.
But there are scientists who would disagree with those conclusions.
Okay, there are people who think the Earth's flat. I'm talking about what the consensus view is, and you're suggesting that science has I'm assuming you think there's a consensus view that the universe had a beginning in that sense, and that's just not true.
I've actually said no such thing. What I said is, according to what I am able to, I'll perhaps try to make myself more clear. According to the data that I've seen, the information that I have available, I think there are good sound scientific reasons and sound philosophical reasons for concluding that the universe is not eternal.
I'm gonna let you talk to John for a second, and I'm gonna rewind the video to where you actually said what you said about science, and I'm gonna type it up. I'll be right back.
Do your thing.
All right. Hey, Harvey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I was only kind of halfway paying attention to the whole science conversation. Can you kind of get me
Fair
caught
enough.
up on that?
Yeah, Matt and I kind of have a little disagreement. My claim is that we have good scientific and philosophical reasons for concluding that the universe that the universe is not eternal but is finite. And Matt had countered and stated that the overall consensus is that the universe is eternal and must have existed in some form.
Hang on. I just fucking rewound to the time point, and you're just now repeating exactly what you said before. And you said, well, I would say we have good scientific and philosophical evidence, which is what I said you said. And then you tried to respin it as if you weren't claiming we had good scientific evidence.
No, I'm not trying to respin anything. Where I was going with that, Matt.
Okay,
you said
let's make this really easy, because I don't feel like having my time wasted trying to scrub audio for shit that you've said twice now. That is the same as what I was saying. So here we go.
Well, he asked me to catch him up.
I'm sorry. Are you listening to me or not?
Tone down the temper, Matt, a little bit. There's no need for that tone. I'm trying to have a productive conversation with you.
I'm sorry. You don't get to tell me how to respond to you at all.
Is that so?
Yes, that's so.
Oh, fair enough. It's your show. Continue.
That's correct. Now, be quiet for a second while I try and sort this out. I'm doing you a favor, because right now you look like a liar twice, and I don't think you are. I'm trying to fix this, but I don't need you to tell me to tone down anything. Clear?
I apologize. Sorry. Yeah, I meant that it's kind of a half a joke.
So thank you. Let's go. Thank you. Let's go. So, is the scientific consensus that the universe had a temporal beginning and is not eternal?
According to what I'll take your word for it. I haven't been apprised of that. I wasn't aware that there's a consensus that the universe is eternal. I've heard arguments on both sides from various sciences.
When you say you think there's good scientific and philosophical evidence that the universe had a beginning, which is what you said twice, right?
Correct.
When you say that, do you have any expertise, and do you have evidence that you can point to? Because first of all, philosophical evidence is irrelevant to whether or not the universe had a beginning. So what scientific evidence are you citing that you either value over the scientific consensus, or you think is the scientific consensus?
The Born-Guth-Lincoln theorem has stated that a universe that is in a state of constant expansion cannot be eternal in the past. So that's one view that contradicts the mainstream consensus that the universe is eternal, and it's a view that I find compelling.
Well, you're mistaken. So this is really easy. There's a debate that occurred between Sean Carroll and William Lane Craig. William Lane Craig has used this exact same. William Lane Craig has used the exact same attempted argument that you have. And have you seen that debate?
I have. It was a long time ago, but I have seen it.
Okay, so you noticed when Sean Carroll pulled up a video of Alan Guth saying that's not what the model says, and that he is not convinced that the universe necessarily had a temporal beginning like that. And so you've decided to side with William Lane Craig, who was basically told during that debate by one of the authors of the paper that he's full of shit, over one of the authors of the paper.
I don't quite recall that. I guess maybe I didn't see the full debate, but I do remember watching it at some point. Maybe I need to go back and rewatch the debate.
Right. So,
I mean,
Hart,
it's one of my favorite moments in any debate, which is why I remember it. I don't tend to remember debates. I'd be shocked if anybody could have watched that debate and not remembered Sean literally pulling up an iPad, I think it was, with a video or an image of Alan Guth basically saying that's not what my model says. Craig is misrepresenting my model. Here, I'm gonna go look for that because John had something to say.
well, yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I was just going to point out that all the BGV does is it denotes that trying to describe our universe classically without any kind of like quantum effects, that hits a wall. And it's like, it's not even every single version, like every single attempt at describing it classically hits a wall. It's just nearly all of them. And there's even a theistic physicist, Aaron Wall, who also has denoted that nearly all of them, all of the solutions hit a wall, some type of beginning, as it were, but that there may be some extendable infinity, past that point, because all it can describe is how far back classical physics can take us, not that it fully describes like our past in some kind of complete form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. We don't have. It's difficult to conceptualize a picture of what might have been prior to the singularity, the moment of expansion.
Well, I mean, I
And to
just think
even
that we
speak
do.
about it
I just
in
don't think that
prior
we
to-
know. I just don't think that we know that, or that we'll ever know. In that, like, I think it's at best people can just admit that they're purely agnostic on it. Like, I just don't think that you're ever gonna know.
Right. Okay.
And,
If I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I'm realistically an agnostic myself. I lead more towards theism, but I'm really, at the end of the day, I'm probably an agnostic.
Wow, it's so weird that you keep calling in as a theist and a defender of gospels and all that stuff. Here, Arden, can you ambigify me so I take up? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen, and I just want
Sweet.
to clarify, Matt. The point of me even though I'm technically an agnostic, I do lean more towards theism, and my purpose in continuing to call in the show is just to sharpen my own analytical and argumentative skills.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, whatever. If you see a screen, this is during the Sean Carroll, William Lane Craig debate, which you can Google, and this one is posted by Reasonable Faith. This is at the 1 hour, 5 minute, and 40-second mark. And up there on the screen is, I believe, Dr. Alan Guth. Because Carroll, like a lot of other physicists, were absolutely tired of William Lane Craig, who doesn't have sufficient expertise in the physics to even critique the model, but who continues to misrepresent it. So he got Alan Guth to hold up, I believe that's an iPad he's holding up. And if you look at it, what it says on there is, it's very likely eternal, but nobody knows. So he's basically saying, no, my model does not say that it had a beginning. In fact, he's convinced it's very likely eternal, but we don't have a way of knowing. So not only is there not a scientific consensus that it had a beginning, the scientific paper that you referred to, which is what William Lane Craig referred to, does not make that claim according to its authors. And at least one of the authors of that paper thinks that the universe is very likely eternal. What's that do?
It kind of shakes up my confidence in the Kalam cosmological argument, if I'm being honest. And I don't know why William Lane Craig would continue to defend that paper in the way that he does subsequent to that.
He's an apologist.
Yeah, but I appreciate the fact that I'm going to quibble on one little thing if I can, Harvey. It shouldn't shake your confidence in the Kalam cosmological argument because it's irrelevant. It is relevant. I know he tries to bolster it by saying, so the Kalam cosmological argument, for anybody who doesn't know, is everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe had a cause for its existence. And Craig does try to do that, use that paper to bolster the second premise that the universe began to exist. But here's the problem: that's the entirety of the Kalam cosmological argument. Neither the word nor the concept God appears in any of the premises or the conclusion for the Kalam. So even if the Kalam were both valid and sound, the only conclusion we would be reaching is, therefore, the universe has a cause for its existence. That doesn't tell you anything at all about that cause and whether that cause is an intelligence, whether that cause is intentional, whether that cause is a multiversal bubbling up. Basically, what Dr. Guth was saying is that we don't have the ability to investigate prior to the math breaking down at the beginning of the expansion of space-time. And as long as that's the case, it would be unscientific to reach a conclusion about whether or not the universe always existed in some form or another. Because at that point, you're basically making claims that you have good reason to think something about something you cannot investigate. It reminds me of deists, kind of, because a deistic God is one by definition that doesn't interact with reality in any detectable way. And so when somebody tells me they think they're rationally justified in believing deism, I know that they have made a horrible mistake in epistemology, because at that point they're claiming to have a warranted belief that cannot be warranted. They're claiming to detect the undetectable. And so, yeah, I'm glad we found that point. Go ahead, Harvey. What else?
I just want to say, in regards to the Kalam cosmological argument, I wouldn't necessarily agree that the three premises are the entirety of the argument. I know that's the extent of the syllogism. However, this argument, as you know, Matt, I'm sure, stems from Al-Ghazali's work, and he wrote an entire book on the argument. So the argument itself,
yeah,
while the syllogism only takes you to the universe has a cause, the entire argument in and of itself breaks down, okay, well, what properties does that cause have, et cetera, et cetera. So the syllogism is not the entirety of the Kalam.
So it is the entire, the syllogism is the argument. Everything else is apologetics glommed on. It's, oh, now that we've concluded that the universe had a cause, what can we say about this cause? And when you listen to someone like Craig, it's, well, that cause is spaceless, timeless, eternal, and blah, 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 blah. And then he tries to go through, and there are other arguments that are not the Kalam cosmological argument that he tries to use to justify each of those features that he's building up for. So he's propping up the Kalam with a misunderstanding of a scientific paper, or misrepresentation at this point. He doesn't misunderstand it anymore. He's actively misrepresenting it. And then he presents the Kalam. You'll see it. Go watch his debates. I mean, I'm sure you have. What he puts up the syllogism on its own, and we'll put a graphic up for it. But he then just talks about, and sometimes he skips over the specifics of how he knows that it's timeless, spaceless, eternal, mental agent and everything else. But that's not the Kalam. That's the extension of the Kalam, which is fine. If we skipped past just the universe had a cause, which I don't see any reason to skip past it, because A, premise one is a problem. Everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. That is an inference that may or may not be true. And I don't know how where you get this line between something that begins to exist versus something that doesn't begin to exist, because we have no evidence of something that doesn't begin to exist. Or, I'm sorry, we have evidence of things that begin to exist as far as their pattern, but not necessarily the substance. And so why originally, as you know, the original versions were just everything has a cause for its existence. And then, of course, when it's pointed out, well, God doesn't. Oh, then they had to go, oh, that's because God didn't begin to exist. So they changed premise 1 to everything that begins to exist, which is already potentially special pleading, that you're trying to exclude something from the first premise without any justification other than just a bold assertion. And then the second premise about the universe beginning to exist, we didn't have, that was always up until like the Borg-Guth-Lincoln model and things like that. That was just kind of a common, what's the right word for it? Common sense. Like it's like an intuition. Of course, it's like something can't come from nothing. First of all, I have no reason to know that there can be a nothing, or that whether or not a nothing can be a part of something. But it is intuitively correct that something can't come from nothing. And it feels intuitively correct that everything that begins to exist must have a cause for its existence. And it feels intuitively correct that the universe began to exist. And yet, when we go and learn about this stuff, not only is it not the case that we can say the universe began to exist, but we may be closer to acknowledging, and the experts seem to think that it may not have or likely didn't. And so the other stuff gets glommed on. I mean, I have seen him defend it, to be fair. I don't want to claim he's never defended it. But by and large, in most of his debates, I don't think he goes into great detail on all the things he's adding to it, because I think he's convinced that if he just presents the Kalam syllogism and cites scientific papers that almost nobody he's talking to is going to understand, that he can smuggle all the rest in without actually doing any kind of robust defense of it. But that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. And at one point, he started changing, as I'm sure you're aware, premise 1 to if the universe began to exist, then the universe had a cause.
Yeah.
He called it T1 or whatever, or prime 1.
The problem is, well, all right. That's a big if. And so all it does then is say, okay, demonstrate that if is justified. And then he still seems to just rely on the common person's intuition. Look, I'm not a physicist. I mean, I don't know what Blitz is doing right now. Blitz, if you're watching, and you want to call in and give like a quick 30-second or 2-minute or whatever correction to anything that I got wrong or anything that needs to be expanded, I'm in favor of that, because it'd be great to educate all of us. And the same for Dr. Adair. We have a couple of physicists who work on the line quite a bit.
Yeah,
and they're great.
I'm familiar with Dr. Blitz.
Yeah. So anyway, why don't we, Harvey? Why don't we end on a great note, where we managed to sort through stuff. You got a new bit of information. It doesn't necessarily change your mind about certain things, but it gives you something new to look into. We didn't have to get extra pissy. We didn't have to try to do any more tone controlling. And then call us back another time. I've got a couple of the theists on hold. I'd love to talk to you again, especially about things that I don't know enough about.
Absolutely. Likewise, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate your time. I'll definitely call in again. The only other thing I'll ask before you let me go, if you don't mind, is are there any resources or books or anything that you would recommend for me to further educate myself on this stuff, so I don't buy into unsubstantiated claims about scientific papers and whatnot?
I'm going to defer, and suggest that you call in either when Dr. Adair or Blitz are on, because they're going to have better references for the specific stuff in the science. But for me, one of the big things is kind of critical thinking skills and skepticism. No, we don't know. There is no. This is so frustrating. I feel bad. I'm not mad at you, Harvey. I'm mad at us. So the modern skeptic movement has done an exceptionally bad job of explaining what skepticism is and how to do it. And instead, we end up going down paths of competing epistemologies or debunking, which one of the I wasn't friends with, but I knew James Randi. We worked together. We did a show together, and we talked a number of times. And he quoted me in an episode of Swift. And I don't say that to give me cred. I'm saying it just so that people know I'm familiar with what the James Randi Educational Foundation did. And one of the things that I know they were working on at one point was teaching materials, both for young kids and adults, to give them the basics to help build what Sagan called the baloney detector or the bullshit detector. Because for me, the key is to learn to and practice getting better at spotting fallacious arguments and trying to find the thing that isn't being mentioned. But it's also not just about fallacious arguments, because most of the conversations you have aren't going to come in a syllogistic form. And when they do, odds are really good, I think, that if somebody presents you with a syllogism, it's going to be valid. It's just not necessarily going to be sound. And so you're not even going to find a formal fallacy. So what I would say is learn things like propaganda techniques, common patterns of misinformation out there. And there are lots of videos on that and books on that, but I would love to get a team of skeptical philosophers together to write the Skeptic Epistemology 101 or the introduction to it, because we really just kind of rely on, we're just going to keep talking about it and hope people, I don't know, absorb it by osmosis. I don't think we're doing a good enough job.
Well, I just jotted down there, Matt. Thank you for that. I just jotted down in my notes here: propaganda techniques, logical fallacies. And I think there was a third you mentioned.
Logical fallacies, propaganda techniques. The one I didn't mention, but this is my absolute favorite book to recommend. I think it's my favorite book to recommend, but definitely in this realm. There's a book called Innumeracy by John Allen Paulos, Paulos. It is probably the most enlightening book I've ever read for getting you to start thinking, start recognizing how little we know and understand and how bad we are at math, how people lie with statistics, and, putting somebody in a lab coat, but also, if you're before you even go down a road of kind of like Bayesian analysis, just figuring out, hey, if they say there's a 12% reduction in this, what does that actually mean? Because quite often we're just being lied to. But Innumeracy by John Allen Paulos is phenomenal.
Okay, well, I'll look into that. Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate your time, and I enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a fair bit, so thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Harvey. Have a good night.
See ya. All right. It looks like we got Kevin is up next as far as theist callers go.
Yeah.
If William... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm back in.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if William is in the chat there and you'd like to call back in, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to call back in. But now we've got Kevin coming up on the line. What's up there, Kevin? How you doing?
Hello?
Hey, Kevin. You're on.
All right. Hey, how you guys doing?
Pretty good. It says you can clarify evidence for God and the resurrection. And cool. We'd like to know.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I don't know why maybe you guys do know if someone's touched on this or not. I just watch you guys on YouTube. But DNA evidence, science has found that DNA evidence is coded information, and we know that code doesn't happen randomly. Only
okay,
intelligent beings can write code.
Go ahead,
Kevin. First of all, I don't know what's going on with your microphone, but we've got a lot of like, I don't know. I don't think it's feedback, but we get something going on there where it's hard to hear you. But it kind of like you said something about DNA evidence and how code doesn't happen naturally.
Well, does it? Does code happen randomly?
Well, no, I said naturally, you said randomly, which those would be different things. So codes can pop up naturally and they regularly do. Like a good quick example would be like flowers have certain patterns that communicate to bees, like how, like where their nectar is or whatnot, that is only visible to bees. And so like that's how they navigate those. That's one particular thing. They've developed a code, to communicate there. And there's several other different codes in nature that have developed naturally.
So you're talking about plants and bees. I'm talking about human beings.
Okay.
No.
And our DNA has, our DNA has over 3 billion bits of information. You understand that, correct?
What's
and
a
all
bit?
That stuff is organized.
No. Kevin, you're talking to a software engineer. What's a fucking bit right now? Can you explain that to me? What is a fucking bit? What's a nibble?
You know what I'm
What's
talking
a byte?
about. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking.
Tell
I'm
me.
talking about
No, tell me. Kevin, tell me. Because my guess is that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Kevin.
I'm talking about bits of information. I'm talking about information.
You can't even define a bit, Kevin.
Well, what? I can't. All I have to do is Google it. That is so stupid. All I can do is Google the damn thing and come up with the damn information. You know what the essence I'm talking about, but you're trying to be.
Kevin?
You know what? You're trying to be a straw man. Go ahead.
Kevin,
go ahead. What is it?
You're trying to be a straw man. Boy, it'd be nice if you knew what a straw man was. What's the difference between plant DNA and human DNA on a chemical level?
What's the difference? What's the difference between plant DNA and human DNA?
Yeah.
I know that I don't know. What's the difference? What's the difference?
There is no difference. They both use the exact same nitrogen. What? What are you laughing at?
There is no difference.
Correct.
Because plants don't have souls. Because plants can't. Because we're the only
Kevin,
we're the only species. No, what? Why?
Kevin,
why are
please
we the
calm
only
down.
species?
I don't need you to. Kevin, please calm down. I don't need you to crash out. I'm trying to help you.
Okay, why are we the only species that can? Why are we the only species that communicate?
Hey, listen.
That can teach each other.
Don't ask questions right now.
Why are you interrupting me?
Because I'm trying to help you by answering the thing we're talking about, but your brain is currently trying to switch topics to answer other questions because it's not interested in actually learning. So here we go. When it comes to DNA, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. And when we talk about the genetic code, we label them as A, T, C, and G, right? Those
how do we get to that labels?
We invented those labels. We could have called them QPRX. We could have called them 1, 2, 3, 4. We applied those labels. Those labels don't exist. There is no code in DNA that is from one mind to. No,
Wait,
I'm trying to answer your question. You have no interest in learning, Kevin. No, you have no interest in learning. So, okay, you're going to listen or not? Are you going to listen or not?
Well, I was trying to get on the same page with you.
Are you going to listen or not?
Right quick?
Are you going to listen or not? Thank you.
I'll listen. I'll listen.
Good. Listen. That means don't talk. I'll let you know when I'm done, and then we can go on to your next question. Cool. So, I'm not a geneticist, but I could get one on here if I needed to. But the basics are that DNA, there's no functional difference in what DNA is or the chemicals involved between plants and animals. All life is related. All life originates from the same sources. When you said a minute ago, well, why are humans only with the souls? Humans don't have souls. There's no evidence of a soul, but also that has nothing to do with DNA either. So we label the actual chemical structures A, C, T, and G. And different living things have different numbers of protein pairs, chromosome pairs, things like that, that are built out of these structures. And so, for example, if you go in and you look at the DNA for humans and the other great apes, humans have fewer chromosomes than our ape relatives. And the answer could be, hey, we're very different. We were created special, or we evolved differently, or whatever else. But when you go in and you look at chromosome number 2, there's a clear fusing of the telomeres and the centromeres on that chromosome, where there used to be additional chromosomes that have now fused. And that's what makes us different from our other great ape relatives. And so there are like, I think bananas or tomatoes, one may have more chromosomes than we do. So the number of chromosomes isn't particularly relevant, but all it is a pattern. It is just chemicals in action. And it's us who go in. And so that we can better understand what the pattern of chemicals are, we label them with these numbers. And we've listed the entire genome of a number of different species. What's your question?
Okay, that's great. Thank you for the education. Can you hear me? I'm gonna take you off speaker.
That'd be great.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that education. Now, what you just explained to me is that all that DNA is organized. Because you know why it's organized? Because scientists were able to label it. They saw that
What?
there was scientists were
We
able
can
to
label anything, Kevin. Cable, we can label anything.
Now you're interrupting me. Now you're interrupting me. Scientists could label it. You know, a sentence is organized
Correct.
information. A paragraph is organized information. Letters are bits. These are marks on paper, which is exactly what scientists have done to DNA because it is so organized and so precise that they could do that. They can read. Scientists can read the DNA just like a book.
You're wrong. Kevin, you're wrong. So
okay, whatever. Here's another one. I got another one for you.
Will you listen to me?
Another one.
No, you don't got another one. You don't got another one. You don't got another one, Kevin. You don't got another one. Listen.
Listen.
What? Because I'm getting ready to school you.
Talk about the universe.
Because I'm getting ready to school you. Did scientists come up with the label for animals? Like, for example, the words for, I raise snakes. I have 22 species of snakes. I have Antaresia maculosa. Did scientists label that animal Antaresia maculosa?
Somebody did.
Yeah, they did.
Somebody gave it a name. Somebody named it.
Does that mean that the children's python or the spotted python, does that mean that is information?
What? Say what now? Is the name information? Yes, it is information. You know why?
Because no, it's not. No, it's not. Kevin, I'm going to mute you. You keep crashing out. You're completely, you're a mess. And I want to let you get to your point, but you're crashing out. You're getting hostile. So here's the point that I'm making. You want to look at DNA and say, ooh, that's structured information that we're able to label. Yes, everything is. That's chemistry. Hydrogen, helium, and then when atoms form together to become molecules, that's structure. The fact that structure exists does not mean that it is the result of an intelligence. That is a flawed conclusion on your part, and to be fair, on a number of other people. Nobody can hear you right now, by the way. You're muted. So if you're crashing out, I just figured I'd let you know so that you could take a breath and calm down. We labeled every chemical, every atom. We looked at them and said, hey, this thing has one electron, one proton, one neutron. We're going to call it helium. We didn't have to. It's not like it came with a label. And it's not like that atom was itself information in the sense that it was a code that came from somewhere. We are able to provide labels and comprehensive understandings of things because they exist and they are patterned. They are regular. They are recognizable. They are distinguishable. It's the reason John's called John, I'm called Matt, you're called Kevin. We didn't come with those labels. Those labels weren't ordained, and we can change them. So you called in to say that you can provide evidence for God and the resurrection. And we started off, and you went with DNA. I'm going to tell you now that while John and I aren't necessarily experts on DNA, and you definitely aren't, there are plenty of actual experts on DNA. And the notion that DNA is a code is kind of a colloquialism. That means it's something we commonly say, but we're using code in a number of different ways. The genetic code is just a pattern, and the chemicals follow a rigid structure of when this chemical meets this chemical, the laws of physics and chemistry dictate how they're going to interact. And when you get to more complicated chemicals, you get to self-replicating chemicals like RNA. And when they're able to self-replicate, they're going to follow certain patterns. If they didn't, then when you got together with whoever you decide to reproduce with, who knows what the hell would happen. However, as somebody who breeds snakes and knows at least a passable amount of genetics, I can predict what's going to happen when I cross different species, and when I cross different creatures within the same species as to what sort of genes I'm going to get between the genotype, which is here's what's actually in the genes, and the phenotype, which is what's displayed. It's why people have different eye color and hairstyles and skin color and everything else. There are slight differences in the genetics. But that's what when we're looking at it, we see it and then we label it. It would be a mistake to think that because I have this many chromosomes that work like this, that necessarily deoxyribonucleic acid was a code designed by a mind. That is a mistake. So, since we're not going to get anywhere on DNA, what evidence can you provide us for the resurrection? I'm going to let you come back in. But actually, I guess before I have you give evidence for the resurrection, I should let you ask whatever it was you were going to ask.
Well, you just said that DNA is organized information. We all know that only intelligent beings can design or write organized information.
That's not true.
Well,
that's not true.
That's your look at it, and I have mine.
No.
I guess we're gonna have to.
No, I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin.
You can't prove it.
You can't
prove that.
I'm sorry, Kevin, but you can't say we all know something, and then when I tell you I don't know that, you are demonstrably wrong. You are wrong to say we all know that. And by the way, if more people who are experts in a particular area do not, in fact, know your fallacious line of reasoning, you are wrong.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I say that? I misspoke. I misspoke.
No,
rational
I don't
people know that.
No, not rational people.
Hey, no, Kevin, I'm going to mute you and say fuck you because I am a rational person, and so is John. And actually, I teach about rational people. You are absolutely clueless. You don't understand epistemology. You don't understand science. And you're proud to run around claiming, we all know that this only comes from a mind. No, we don't all know that. As a matter of fact, the people who are most informed on the subject, who know way more than your ignorant ass knows, actually understand that that's not the case. Organization occurs regularly in sand dunes, in life structures. We know about that phi isn't a mathematical thing, but it is nature being efficient in how it packs, because we understand about circle packing. I bet you that virtually no topic I've mentioned in the last 30 seconds is one you could possibly define. I bet you that you could not describe what epistemology is or how to reach a sound epistemology. So don't you dare come in here and pretend like you're the rational one when we are able to show that you're wrong. We do not all know the thing that you want to pretend like we all know. Now, put up some fucking evidence like you said you could, and stop asserting what we all know and pretending that we're the ones that aren't rational. And maybe you won't look stupid as fuck by the time we're done. What's your evidence for the resurrection?
Okay. Well, my evidence for the resurrection is, I understand you've been a pastor for 20 years. You know that before Jesus died, that to atone for our sins, that priests had to sacrifice animals. We don't do that anymore. Why is it that we don't do that anymore? Is it because that Jesus was resurrected? He was the replacement.
No.
He was the.
Wait, what don't we do anymore?
He replaced.
No.
He replaced.
I'm answering your question, Kevin. Kevin,
no,
I'm answering your question.
Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Please answer it. Please answer that.
So I'm going to, if you'll shut your pie hole. You ready?
I'm listening.
So, No, you're not. You're jibber jabbering because you think you know shit and you don't know stuff. There's a claim. The Bible is a claim that Jesus died for your sins and was resurrected, and that is why we no longer have to do the blood animal sacrifices that God likes so much. He loves the smell of barbecue. But the reason
That's right.
that we don't do it, would you shut up? The reason we don't do it anymore isn't because Jesus actually fulfilled the sacrificial requirements, but because people believe Jesus fulfilled the sacrificial requirements. And okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you because you're going to crash out, and you're way too stupid for this anyway, Kevin. I'm sorry. I hate to be a dick like that, but I'm just going to be, because you clearly have no interest in learning anything because you think you already do. So let me tell you about the Bible. The Bible's a book of stories. You don't get to assume the stories are true. You have to demonstrate the stories are true. But for the people who believe those stories are true, those stories can impact their lives, whether they're true or not. And so if the organizers of a religion say, hey, the old law was that you had to sacrifice an animal, but now that we believe Jesus has fulfilled that, you no longer have to sacrifice the animal. That explains the thing that you wanted to explain, why we don't do that anymore. By the way, I wasn't a pastor for 20 years. You should know a little bit more about who you're talking to. Maybe go hit up my Wikipedia page. It is the fact that people believe the sacrificial laws were fulfilled that is why they do not have to continue doing it. But you know what? They didn't have to do it in the first place because there is no evidence that there is a God. There is no evidence that you were born wrong, that humans were born wrong. Sin is a bullshit concept that you can't demonstrate or describe. And the atonement for sin is a corrupt system within the Bible as well. You can't prove that when you pray it goes anywhere or that there's anybody listening. You have no way to demonstrate that there is a concept of sin or what anybody had to do. You're talking about religious rituals. The religious rituals changed when the people running the religion decided that they changed. And you, like every other ignorant believer, same as I was, think that because you believe the story's true, and that's what the justification is. But the problem is that's true in every religion. And you can't say that every religion is true. They can't all be true, but they could all be false. Before I bring Kevin in, I know I jumped back in on that because I get hyped up over this because Kevin is so willfully, gleefully ignorant and confused about every single topic that he wanted to address. And I just hit my limits for, I'm not going to let you keep talking bullshit. And you can whine your little bitch ass off all you want about how we didn't let you finish. I don't let people finish spewing nonsense. We're here to correct stuff. And if you're going to come up with tired old canards that we've heard 1,000 times and debunked and things that, you know, no modern person, no modern rational person could possibly say, I'm going to jump in. But I know John wanted to say something. So before I bring Kevin back, John, all you.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say that I kind of clocked the inability for him to actually engage in the in this conversation at the depth that he was wanting to. He's more of a 3-inch guy rather than a 9-inch guy here. But listen, Kevin, when you come off mute, just give us what is your best evidence that isn't like you just sort of spitballing the science or anything like that. About, you know, the resurrection or whatever. I know that you brought up Jesus and him fulfilling something or another. I don't know. Could you come back in and maybe explain that a little bit better? That's not full of bullshit.
Okay, you guys don't want to accept my evidence for the resurrection or the DNA.
You haven't
Yeah,
presented evidence. You've made claims.
Say what?
Yeah, could you actually
You
give us
haven't presented
evidence?
evidence. You presented claims.
Dude, that's science. Science has found that. But anyway.
Science,
no, Kevin,
bitch.
Kevin, what has science found about the resurrection?
Oh, the resurrection. No, well, that's all I had was about Jesus, that we don't sacrifice animals anymore. But you said the reason why we don't do that is because people believe that he was resurrected, not actually that he was.
I'm sorry.
Is that what you're saying?
What were you saying? What were you saying science found?
I was saying that science has found that DNA is organized information.
Yes.
You guys saying
Science
that
is
organized information.
science operates because the universe is organized and regular and consistent. That is a fundamental
Ooh.
requirement for us to do science.
Good.
But that doesn't in any
Okay,
way
good.
demonstrate that there is a God. Yes, keep talking over me. That's so good. Doesn't demonstrate there's a God.
Jesus, you do the same thing. Okay, well, I appreciate.
I'm sorry. Here, let me mute you again. It's time to cook you some more, Kevin. First of all, it's our show. But second of all, if you make a claim and don't back it up, we're going to ask you about it. If you don't want me to do that, stop talking out of your ass. Stop saying science says this when we don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So instead of making claims, provide evidence. So here's what we're going to do. When I unmute you, what I'd like you to do is say, my claim is, and then state your claim. Jesus rose from the dead. The evidence for that claim is, and then present the evidence. And you can do it for whatever one you want.
I just said that we don't sacrifice animals.
Okay.
That's not the only. That's not the only evidence, but that's one of them.
Kevin. Some people still do sacrifice animals. What does whether or not we sacrifice animals have to do with science?
Sir, I'm not talking about other religions. I'm talking about the biblical Christians do not sacrifice.
Sir.
That's what I'm talking about.
What does the fact?
I'm talking about
what
this
does
one.
the fact? Oh my God, are you stupid as fuck?
Yes.
Well, why are you mentioning other religions when I'm talking about Christianity?
Okay, listen to me very carefully. I know you're slow on this. Yes, we know Christians no longer do animal sacrifices. What does science say about that? And what is that evidence for?
Oh, you want science for resurrection?
Oh my fucking God, Kevin. Okay, I'm going to mute you because if I don't, I'm going to lose it. Kevin, you dumb motherfucker. You need to present a claim and then the evidence for the claim. You seem to be, if I'm understanding you, claiming that Jesus actually died for our sins and was resurrected for our sins. And the evidence for this is that we no longer sacrifice animals, or Christians no longer sacrifice animals. I'm not a Christian. I don't sacrifice animals as well. See, here's something. Hey, John, let's play a game.
Mm-hmm.
John, can you make a claim that you can back up with evidence?
Yes.
Cool. Make a claim.
I have a motorcycle.
Awesome. What is your evidence that you have a motorcycle?
I have pictures of me with a motorcycle that I could theoretically show you.
And if you were to like to take your cell phone camera, you could walk out and do a constant video shot from you all the way out to wherever you're and show the motorcycle, right?
Yep.
I'm assuming that maybe whoever in chat is saying blood pressure, ban them. I'm assuming that you also have things like receipts for purchasing it, maybe registration things for that motorcycle.
Yep.
All of those things would be evidence that are consistent with that. Cool. Would it be evidence that you have a motorcycle that you used to have a bicycle and now you don't?
I wouldn't say so. No.
No, I wouldn't either. Okay. So hopefully this has clued Kevin in. Kevin, we need you to make a claim and then state what the evidence is for the claim, because right now you've been all over the map. So Kevin, what is your claim?
I just been on two subjects, but I'll leave you guys with this. Jesus came here.
No. You're gonna run away. You're gonna run away like a little bitch. Now that we've hand walked you through this all over again, you're gonna run away?
Are you serious? You think you hand walked?
Yeah.
Well, okay, man. Whatever. If you don't think that evidence that I presented is whatever you think it's not evidence.
I'm still asking you, Kevin. You have not presented evidence. Wait, I don't even know what your claim is. What is your fucking claim?
That Jesus was resurrected because we don't sacrifice animals anymore. That's evidence.
Okay. Listen. Am I correct that your claim is Jesus rose from the dead?
Yes.
And the evidence that you're presenting for Jesus rising from the dead is that Christians no longer sacrifice animals.
That's one piece of evidence. Yes.
That's not a piece of evidence that Jesus rose from the dead.
Whatever. Okay, well, fine.
Go ahead, run away.
All right.
If you don't want to learn, you can run
No,
away.
no, fine. Fine. No, fine. Whatever. If you say it's not evidence,
If we
fine.
stopped,
I guess
if
not.
we stopped killing animals, how does that prove Jesus rose from the dead?
Because we used to. Before we used to do
Okay.
that to sacrifice for our sins.
Well,
Now
so,
we don't.
Kevin,
because of Jesus.
Kevin,
If I stopped eating meat, does that prove
Yes,
that meat is bad for me?
it depends. Why did you stop
It
eating meat?
depends. So listen up, Kevin, because you're sounding dumb as fuck. There is nothing about the fact that they stopped killing animals that proves Jesus rose from the dead. It may be evidence
Sir.
that people would you fucking stop?
Oh my.
Oh my. Just run away. Be a little bitch or listen. One of the two.
All right. Go ahead.
You gonna listen?
I've been listening,
Are you gonna
man.
listen?
I've been listening to you. I've been listening.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
I'm gonna mute you, punk. Listen up. If people used to sacrifice animals and they stopped doing it, that might be evidence that they believe Jesus was resurrected. But it is not evidence that Jesus was resurrected. It also might not even be evidence that they believe it, just that they believe they were told they didn't need to do this anymore. I'm going to leave you another chance to show how the fact that the sacrificial rules changed is evidence that Jesus actually rose from the dead, not merely that somebody said he did, not merely that somebody believed he did, not merely that somebody co-opted a claim in order to change the sacrificial laws. How does the fact that the sacrificial laws changed prove that Jesus rose from the dead? Here we go.
Because the prophets of the Bible prophesied that he would do so
no, you didn't.
500 years before he did it. There you go. It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible.
But my Bible says,
Yep, there it is. The Bible prophesies that Jesus would die for our sins and that he will rise.
Oh my fucking God.
There it is.
Oh my God. Kevin, say goodbye. You're not ready.
Sir. Are y'all done?
no.
Y'all
Yeah, I'm
sounds
done
like
with
you're
you
done.
now.
Okay, all right. Run away, ho.
Oh, I'm not running away. I'm kicking you out, bitch. I'm tired of you wasting my motherfucking time. I tried. I tried. Run away, ho. Yeah, whatever. Here's the thing. Kevin is 100% for the Bible tells me so.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin is, the fact that the ceremonial laws changed proved that Jesus rose from the dead. No, it doesn't. It's not even evidence for it. Well, it's because the prophets said that would happen. Actually, Jesus didn't fulfill prophecy. But even if there was a prophecy that Jesus fulfilled, that still doesn't prove that he rose from the dead. It doesn't prove he was divine. I mean, you have no comprehension of how to actually demonstrate X is true, seemingly for any value of X. Instead, you know what you've been told. You went to Sunday school, you listened to the preachers, and you believed. And what we're trying to show you is that you believe bullshit and you believe it for bad reasons. I'm not saying that what you believe isn't true. Although I think for some of what you believe, we can demonstrate that it's not true. But your reasons for thinking it is true are irrational, fallacious, flawed, rooted in ignorance about every single subject you mentioned, right down to the subjects of prophecy, what the Bible does or doesn't say, the sacrificial laws. There is literally, Kevin, not a single subject you broached that you have the slightest grasp of that is worth anyone having a conversation with you about it. I've dealt with people who believe everything that you believe pretty much. We'll just sum that up because I don't know the other things, but of all the things you talked about. And you know what? Some of them were willing to listen and learn, and you are not. Jesus rose from the dead because we don't sacrifice animals anymore, and the prophets said that would happen. Cool story.
Yeah,
Cool story.
I wish that that he would have calmed down and quit being so emotional over that, for me to ask him, like, how do we discern between people just deciding to stop for whatever reason and what he's claiming about Jesus, because I feel like we should be able to discern between those two things, otherwise they're indistinguishable.
I mean, it's almost as dumb, not quite. It's almost as dumb as saying, we know Jesus rose from the dead because of the empty tomb. Now, the empty tomb is a big problem because, first of all, you're not able to demonstrate any fact about Jesus's life. John's a mythicist. I'm not. That's irrelevant. The point is, if you list the facts, the claims about Jesus's life, there's none of them that you're able to actually verify with any reliability. I'm fine with the notion that somebody existed, or at least with that possibility or whatever. But there's no way to demonstrate that he was crucified, that he was placed in a tomb, that the tomb was empty. But even if I granted you all of that, even if I said, okay, I agree with you that there's good evidence that Jesus existed, that he was crucified, and that he was put into a tomb, and that we found last week the exact tomb, and it was empty. None of that proves that Jesus was resurrected. And all of that is stronger evidence than we stopped sacrificing animals. The thing is, Kevin's not watching anymore, I'm sure. Actually, he was probably cooking hard enough that he might be. The thing is, Kevin, the Bible is a book full of claims. And when you go to, for example, the New Testament, which is where the story of Jesus is, we don't have originals. We don't necessarily know who wrote all of them. We don't have any way to investigate or inquire from those people about their claims, which is why the author of Luke Acts starts both of those books with a "trust me, bro, I did the research so you don't have to" message. He did that in both Luke and Acts. It's a complete con job. Why would Jesus be spending 40 days? Yes, I know 40 days is an ambiguous term that just means a while. Proving that he was alive. You wouldn't have to spend any time proving you were alive. Like John mentioned earlier, he's been over here to the house. He was here a couple weeks ago. If John witnessed me having my head chopped off and they buried me, and a couple weeks later, John comes over to the house and I'm here and we start talking, I don't think it would take that long for me to prove that I was alive. It might take a little while for me to prove that I was the person he watched have his head cut off. And I don't necessarily know how you could do that. But if after seeing me, I vanished, John would look pretty silly if he was running around saying, Matt got resurrected, and the proof is he's no longer at his house. He's no longer where we buried him. Matt ascended to heaven, and I know that because I can't find him on earth. I mean, that's the level of stuff that some of the serious apologists who know stuff are talking about, and Kevin isn't even a serious apologist. Kevin just knows, hey, Jesus must have resurrected from the dead because we stopped doing animal sacrifices. Congratulations. Hey, when did we stop having slaves? And when did the Bible say that? Oh, yeah, I didn't go into that because reasons. All right. We got another caller. We lost our theist callers.
Yeah.
I guess
I think they're too scared today.
Either Kevin did a good enough job, and there really isn't a better theist defense anymore, or something else happened. But Zach's an atheist, prone to him, and has some questions about indoctrination. So it may be a good time to mention recovering from religion. But hey, Zach, you're on with John and Matt.
How's it going, guys?
Doing okay.
It's rough. It's rough. I'm not happy with myself. I let John get to me. I'll have to go or not John, Kevin. John didn't get to me. Now I got to go donate again.
You need some recovery from stupidity or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's really frustrating because I genuinely, it's like, I know there are people who won't get it. And we're constantly working for more and better ways to address the claims and to possibly teach people, hey, what are the limits? But for some reason, it's just really strange to be in this position where you can teach people and they're just completely incapable of hearing anything you say or processing any of it in any way. And I let that get to me. I'm sorry, this isn't my therapy time. That's something you're struggling with.
No, I understand where you're getting from, because there are people that are genuine in regards to wanting to know a truth or the truth in regards to religion. There is a genuine theists that want to hear sides of it. I mean, that's how most former theists came about. It was, through help through you and I don't know, like Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins.
Oh God,
Hitchens.
No, stop. Please don't ever put me and Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins in the same list again. Let's just get to what you called about.
Okay. I guess being indoctrinated with the good feeling of, if when you did pray, and then the feeling in your chest, or and the warming in your bosom. I can't remember the scriptures for it or anything, but then how I've been atheist for over 13, maybe about 15 years. And I still every now and then will have the feeling of it, and I just don't. And I know it's a mental thing. I know it's all a mental, like, issue, or the synapse, everything's clicking off for it, and I just don't know. I know how I used to be a pastor or whatever, and I don't know if you still get those type of feelings for it, or if there's something you did to help you not, I guess, conflate the two, or to make it seem like it is something to do with a God. I'm probably not wording this good at all, but I don't know if you can.
So
you need clarification.
Are you asking, like, is what have we done to get past, like, what we perceive to be the need for, like, prayer and maybe forgiveness or something?
No, I don't give a fuck about that. It's just the feeling, like, if, like, sometimes I'm with I watch a show or God gets brought up, or if some of my friends are theists or like heavily religious still, and they'll bring up God, or they'll do something, and like just how they say it or word it or something, and then sometimes I'll get like that same feeling of God, but I know it's not, and I just don't know how to to break away from that feeling. Yeah, I guess pretty much how to break away from the feeling of the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit, because I know that's not what it is, and I just don't know how to. It doesn't happen a lot, but every now and then it might happen. It's like only twice a year or something, because I don't really like talking religion, because most people are just, they know that they're religious because they're only there for their faith, or it's all faith-based. It's just that feeling, like they bring up God or they get the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit or whatever. I just want to try and, for myself, to go ahead.
Sorry, I mean, I guess I'm trying to I guess pin down like what feeling you're talking about, and I'm guessing the feeling is like a feeling of connectedness to something larger than yourself. Is that what you're talking about?
It's just were you ever religious, or like the Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost type feeling?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I just want to get rid of that. Like when God is mentioned, sometimes when I talk about to other theists or things like that, or I hear conversations, or I'm in conversations, I just want to try and break away from that feeling, because I know I don't want to hear God or be mentioned in prayers or be around surrounded by prayers and then have that same feeling of, I guess, like what you're saying, the collectiveness. Because in a way, that's all it really is. It's like a mind hive, like frequency feeling, I guess, when I'm surrounded by other people with it. That's probably why I'm feeling that. And I just want to try and, or maybe that's just it. Is it just everyone's on the same frequency in a way, I guess? I'm trying to make it make sense. I'm not good at explaining this shit.
I'm trying to figure it out. So this may not be helpful. I'm not going to go on too long, because this might not be what you're talking about at all. When I was in church and we would sing, I would get a feeling of elation, and the people around me would say, that's the Holy Spirit. And I believed it at the time. And then I realized later I can get that same feeling from secular music, from art, from drugs, from sex. It's virtually the same feeling. It's never exactly the same, but it wasn't exactly the same in church. Once we learn about how the brain works, and that religions are tapping into the emotional responses that circumvent your reasoning in order to make you feel things, for me, it didn't go away, in the sense that I still have just as much appreciation for art and music and all that. I still get those same feelings. I can't possibly attribute them to a God or a Holy Spirit.
Right. And so that's you just have to, I guess, more or less, I need to just keep reminding myself that it's not that, I guess. I mean, I know that God is only inside the mind of the individual. And so it's pretty much just got to keep reminding yourself, like if I listen to Slipknot or other musicians and I get that same feeling, that's all it is. It's just that feeling. And it's somehow, it's just a feel-good feeling, really. And I don't need to associate it with a God.
I could be weird.
Yeah, I don't.
There are things that don't register for me now, or that maybe never did. It may be the case that you might benefit from some therapy. Psychotherapy.org, an extension of RFR. It may be that you were indoctrinated in a different way, or that you reacted in a different way to the indoctrination, and that it's more of a struggle. I never, like, I can't recall ever struggling with this after I recognized that I was no longer a Christian, let alone after I recognized I was an atheist. but it's what religions prey upon, and some people are more susceptible than others. I mean, I was surprised actually that like Kevin didn't talk about evidence of Holy Spirit or whatever else, because that's kind of common. But yeah, for me, and I'm probably not representative of anywhere near the majority or anything. But I would definitely recommend, seeking some expert help that's not me. But all I can say is I found once I recognized, I think it might come from being a magician. Early on, my family had a deck of cards around all the time, and even today, I am pretty much never more than 2 feet away from a deck of cards, even if I don't mess with them. And I remember the first time I did a card trick that fooled an adult. That was incredibly eye-opening, because we are the type of creatures that are social, and we rely on. By the way, lines are open. By the way, if anybody wanted to call in, we've got open lines. We rely on authority and parents, and religions prey upon that. This top-down, frequently patriarchal, but sometimes matriarchal structure, where, hey, these are the people who know, because most of the time they do. If you trust the advice from the people who, were around before you, it's more often than not going to be good advice, because it worked for them to keep them alive. So it's probably going to work for you to keep you alive. And when I realized that adults didn't know everything and were wrong about things and could be fooled about things, and that I could fool them, and that I, as a little kid, could be more knowledgeable about something than an adult, and maybe even smarter and better at solving some problems than an adult, that was huge. And I think learning that lesson early for me got me to a point where, even though I was like 30, more than maybe older than 30, when I finally gave up Christianity, it was the reason I didn't earlier is because there wasn't any motivation to question my beliefs. But as soon as I did, the dominoes just started falling quickly. It was a long time before I was comfortable, saying I was an atheist, but it wasn't all that long before I was like, oh, I don't think Christianity can be true. And every time I looked into something, I found another problem. And it was like, wow, you've been conned. You've been fooled.
Right.
And I think, that's one of the reasons why I do the Magic and Skepticism show. Granted, the one I did at NanoCon there wasn't much teaching. That was just a bit of fun. But in the regular one, it's about teaching how to identify some of the stuff. And I think we should be teaching magic to kids from the get-go. I think it inspires awe, a desire for learning, and gives them some real good information about, no, you should not just respect my authority. You should realize, we're all people. We're all valuable. And there are plenty of kids who know a fuck ton more than I do about a great many subjects, and are way smarter than I've ever been or ever will be. And that type of knowledge was when I had the epiphany that, hey, I remember singing in church and I felt this elation. And then I got high once and I was like, well, that's kind of similar. Then I had sex and I was like, ooh, that's kind of similar. And then I remember listening to albums. So like my favorite Christian rock album, when that was almost all I would listen to for a while, the favorite Christian rock band was Petra. And they were great. And I can actually look up the albums. And so we'll know exactly what year this was. Because the first album that I probably heard would have been More Power to You, which was released in 82. And then in 83, Not of This World, and 84, Beat the System. That's about the last, those are the only real 3 major Petra albums that I listened to. And I would get moved deeply by songs. And all of them, like I can still probably sing along. No, I hated Striper. But I could probably sing along with a good chunk of them. Like if you go back to like the track list for More Power to You, More Power to You, just off the top of my head, more power to you when you're standing on his word. I'm not going to get the thing now because it's been a gazillion times, but then there's Run for the Prize and Road to Zion, this really slow guitar ballad, you know, the Road to Zion's in your heart. And these things were big. They were, and so here was contemporary music that was more powerful to me than what I was hearing in church, but it was a similar experience. And then I heard Pink Floyd after I went in the Navy. Actually, I heard Pink Floyd before I went in the Navy, but it didn't register with me until afterwards. And that moved me. And then later, as we get, you know, into the 90s and stuff, and you've got like Tori Amos and Sarah McLachlan and you know, a number of artists. And it's like, hey, these are the albums I would have burned because they weren't godly. These were the things I was told not to listen to. And I feel the same way. And when I look at art, I feel the same. As soon as I had that realization, the magic, the literal magic went away, but the metaphorical magic became embedded permanently. It just didn't have a God as the source. It had human psychology as the source. And for me, once I recognized that, there was no going back. And I recognize that I'm different than a lot of other people. I hope you find a way to deal with it. Therapy might be the thing, but yeah, I hope that's helpful in some way. But if not,
no,
it won't always be that way.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, it's significantly from the 13 years ago when I was watching your early show back when you're still in Texas. I don't know if you're still there or not, but the Atheist Hotline, and then watching that, like that really helped me a lot. And from that early point, like when I had the realization that God was a lie, it was just a con job, like this overwhelming feeling of the Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, whatever, like that was bigger than whenever I was baptized. And I don't know, for me, I guess I'm just it's more my feelings, I guess. But yeah, like you said, a therapy thing, that'll probably help more to finally disconnect the association with God and like making it so it's not like you said, that's how they really get a lot of people is through the feelings. And so, yeah. But well, no, I appreciate you. Thank you, John. Thanks, Matt, for everything you guys do. And
thanks, Zach.
Yeah, just be patient. There'll be a true theist that wants to learn.
Well, we've got a theist on the line now, so
yeah,
I'm hopeful we can see if we can get one good conversation before we're done for the day. But,
yeah, all right, I'll keep watching.
All right, see you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach. So we do have a theist, and it's a seemingly interesting change, and I'm going to ignore the previous call note because I don't want to derail this, but we have Alan calling from Arizona, pronouns are he, him, and Alan says, you can't understand the world without believing in God. Hey, Alan, how are you?
I'm amazing. I just want to clarify one thing, because when I was listening, you said that when you were growing up, to listen to Amos, whatever, it was like a problem. Like, where would you get that from? That was like literally something that somebody told you?
So, I'm a little older. Are you aware of like the claims about backmasking in rock music?
Yeah, I am. I'm 45 myself, right? But like,
Yeah.
when I was a young man, I was deeply Christian, and I listened to Tori almost, and I thought her music was
Tori
amazing.
Amos.
When nobody ever, yeah, Tori
Yeah.
Amos.
So the thing is, earlier, prior to that, it wasn't, nobody ever told me don't listen to Tori Amos. I'm not saying that. Um, I was a Southern Baptist, and I was a Southern Baptist in a period of time when people were talking about backmasking and demonic influence in song. And of course, the Bible tells us, and it's very easy to spin it this way, especially if you're like in a Southern Baptist upbringing, that it's what you put into your body, including your mind, that is potentially corrupt. And so we're supposed to be praying without ceasing, and we are supposed to be um, exemplifying Christ in all things. And if I'm listening to the Rolling Stones instead of things that glorify God, that's a problem, according to, preachers and apologists and everything else at the time. And so, yes, I went and got rid of all of my rock and roll records in like 80, 83, 84. I didn't have very many. I was kind of young. But yeah, there was a big satanic panic is what it was referred to, where secular music is of the devil. And so you shouldn't be listening to it. And then when I found out that
That's
some
so
of the
weird.
secular music, anyway. So
I was
you
just gonna
say,
say is like me me personally is like my family was very religious, and like nobody I know the satanic panic like in the early 80s, and like I never dealt with that. So like it's
Yeah.
really like, kind of curious because like I do appreciate that like you have like an animosity or something to Christianity, and I'm like maybe it's like that like hyper ridiculousness I would call like of like
no,
listening to
no, my
music
problem
is
with
like
Christianity is
satanic.
that it can't demonstrate that it's true. And so you're saying we can't
Mhm.
understand the world without believing in God. Um, I
Yeah,
guess we
yeah.
need to know, um, I don't believe in God right now. And I think I understand the
hmm
world better now than I did when I used to believe in God. So what is it that John and I can't understand because we don't believe in God?
Well, like we can take out like the Christian God, and that's why I always get like really confused when we're talking about God, right? What we're talking about like is the arche, right? The Father. And I do not understand how people do not understand the arche. It's like how is there a progenitor of all things that we understand, right?
Can
Um,
you prove
you
that
know,
he's the progenitor of all things?
what do you mean by prove, right? So like there's this like
Can you
we can
establish
like
that
there's
can you establish that that's like the truth of reality? Like, is there some way that you can
well
establish that?
well I would say that you cannot understand reality without an arche, right?
Okay,
So like
that's
how
just making another claim. That's just making another claim that
Without a what?
I think you're the I would say that you're the one that's making the claim, right? So
I'm
like how is
I'm
reality
sorry.
actually exist?
No, you're factually wrong about that. But you say without a what? An
Am I
arche?
factually wrong? Yeah,
I'll
so
tell you in a
like when
second.
we're
I'm
talking
trying.
about
What are you talking
go
about
ahead,
with
my
an
friend.
arche?
Oh, we're talking about a source of all things, right? So what where all
What is
things
the source of all
are
things?
I would say that is the arche, right? So all things
I don't know
have to
what you're
come from an
saying.
arche.
What do you mean that is the arche? What is that word?
Arche, like dude, like if you read John 1, like in arche and hologos, right? Like that's what they're talking about is the arche,
I'm
the
sorry.
source
Are
of
you
all
trying
things.
to speak Koine Greek in like it were an English word?
Sure. What's that matter?
Okay. So the question I asked you was, what can I not understand because I don't believe in God?
Well, what I would say is like, what is your understanding? How do you even have proof of your
No,
understanding?
I'm sorry. You don't get
Right?
to
So,
ask me. You don't get to ask me a single question. You have made the claim. See, you say that we're making the claim, and that's where I said you're factually wrong because you called in to claim that we cannot understand the world if we don't believe in God. And I'm asking you to defend your claim. I'm asking you to defend your claim by telling us what it is that we cannot understand about the world if we don't believe in God.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to tell you. So you have an arche, right? You have to have a source to our understanding of the world.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're
world.
talking about. You said we cannot understand the world, and I'm asking you, what about the world can I not understand?
Well, you would have to demonstrate how you have any source to your understanding of the world. So like you said that like, oh, as a non-Christian, now I understand the world, right? And I'm just curious.
No, I'm sorry.
Of how
I'm sorry. You've called in to make a claim. I don't have to demonstrate a thing. You are saying that because I don't believe in God, I can't understand the world. And I'm asking you, what about the world can I not understand?
It's very simple. You do not have any
Then fucking say it.
foundational understanding. Well, if you want to start swearing, I can swear too. Like,
yes,
what we had.
I was in the Navy for 8.5 years, motherfucker. I can swear my fucking ass off all fucking day. But you seem to be stalling because I don't care what you think about my swearing. You called into a show and you said that we can't understand the world without believing in God. And now I've asked you probably half a dozen motherfucking times to explain what you fucking mean. Now do it.
Okay, well, you cannot have any understanding of what you're even saying. How do I understand?
I understand what I'm saying. I'm speaking English. I'm speaking English. I can define the words.
Well, like, that is the most pathetic, like, fucking loser shit I've ever heard. Like, do you understand the philosophy of language, you stupid son of a bitch?
Okay. So you assert that I can't understand what I'm saying, and when I say I do, you say that's pathetic loser shit.
Yes, it is. You're a pathetic loser because you don't even know the philosophy of language. How do I understand what you're saying?
You don't understand the philosophy of language. What the fuck are you talking about? You're talking about arcane. You can't just say the beginning, like the beginning of shit. Like, you can't even just say that. You've got to appeal to a Koine Greek. Oh,
you're the dumbest person ever because you don't even listen to what people say. I said the source, not the beginning, you stupid son of a bitch.
That's what arcane means.
I'm sorry. We listen to you, which is how we know you're a liar and how we know you're avoiding this, because when you're talking
about... What did I lie about, you stupid fat piece of shit? Go ahead. Tell me what I lied about.
Thanks.
Somebody's getting
you
emotional
want to throw in
here.
some transphobia too?
Where do you get transphobia from, you fucking weirdo? I'm asking you a simple question. Okay.
I've been asking you a simple question quite a ways.
Where did I ever say that arcade was the beginning, you stupid lying piece of shit?
No. Okay, let me explain. Arcade is Koine Greek. Go ahead.
What does the John 1:1 say in English?
In English, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God." And and whatever.
What word in Greek is translated as the beginning?
Oh, arche, but that have anything to do with anything, what I was talking about.
Then why did you say it so many times?
Why
did you say it so many times?
I accept the English translation?
Why would you say it so many times?
I know the Greek, and I know the Koine Greek.
Why would you say it so many times?
Why would I accept the English
Why would you say it so many times? Why would you say it so many times and then pretend that you weren't saying beginning?
I understand, like, you're pathetic. Like, I do understand, like, this is pathetic. So you do understand that arche means source, correct?
No. That is not actually in. I'm looking at the definition, like the various defenitions that are used for it right now.
According to who? According what is your?
So I'm reading it in Strong's Hebrew and Greek dictionary right now. I'm telling you the source, dumbass.
You're looking into,
Strong's Hebrew and
Greek
Greek
literally
dictionary.
that pathetic that you're looking at a definition in the dictionary of what arche means.
Yes.
Like, really?
Yes.
This is what you do, like, on the line. Like, you guys are, like, supposed to be like the atheist scholars, and this is what you do. You go through like a dictionary definition. Like, this is the most embarrassing. Do you understand? Like, this is embarrassing for you, right?
No, it's not embarrassing for me at all because I don't actually speak Greek.
Yeah, you're like, honestly, like, pathetic. If you want to go, do you understand Koine Greek? You want to say Koine Greek, so do you understand the Koine Greek?
Do you?
Like, RK means
I'm
source,
asking you.
you pathetic loser.
I'm asking you.
I understand you're a loser.
I'm asking
I
you.
understand you don't know what you're talking about. So, can we actually address what I actually originally started with?
I'm trying to, but you keep crashing out. You keep crashing out like a little baby. You're crashing out. Yes.
You're the ones that are
Here, I'm going to mute you so that you can stop crashing out like a little baby. I never claimed to speak or read Greek. I study it using a dictionary. And so when John mentioned that you were mentioning in the beginning, it's because you're using arche as if it means source, which, by the way, is still, I don't care whether it means source or beginning, whether you're using it that way. I can understand it can be that way if you want, or if other people are using it that way. I'm trying to understand what you're actually saying. And you're saying that we can't understand the world if we don't believe in God. Now, I used to believe in God, and I don't now. And I've asked you half a dozen times, you whiny little shit, to tell me what it is that I can't understand. And you just keep being obnoxious and yelling over us as you crash out to call us losers and pathetic and all this stuff. Good job. Give you an A, gold star. You think you're special. Anyway, I'm going to bring you off mute. And I would like for you, somebody who clearly doesn't even understand that they're the one making the claim. You called in to make the claim. It literally says here, you can't understand the world without believing God. That's your claim. We're asking you to defend it. I know you're in there stewing. It's actually giving me wood. You need to defend your claim, saying that we can't understand the world. Because from my perspective, I definitely understand more about the world, or understand the world better, now that I don't believe in God. So I'm trying to find out, what is it about the world that I can't understand if I don't believe in God? And you will either, when we come back, be able to explain to us what it is that we can't understand because we don't believe in God, or you will continue to crash out. That's your call. So I'm going to bring Alan back, and let's hope Alan can explain to us what it is that we don't understand because we don't believe in God. Hey, Alan, what don't we understand?
Yeah, so there's no reason at all in philosophy or understanding, even for us to understand what we're talking about. So, I'm just asking you, without an arche, without a source, how do you accept that we understand? You're like, oh, I understand things. Okay, so explain that to me. I'm just curious.
I don't know how a source is relevant to what I understand. I understand the world by scientific inquiry and I'm sorry, are you trying to talk over me? That's good. I understand the world by scientific inquiry and investigation, by logical reasoning.
What's your epistemic understanding of science?
I'm sorry, this is not a quiz show where you get to interrupt me to ask me for what my epistemic understanding of science is. I'm a skeptic, and science relies on methodological naturalism until such time as something beyond the natural world can be testable and falsifiable. And so within science, you're looking at testability and falsifiability being key features of whether or not we can reliably investigate that. And then all of science is tentative findings that are subject to revision as we gain a better understanding of the world, as we gain more information and new information. What is it that you're saying I can't understand? Because so far, you still haven't said what I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know why you're talking over me. What is it that I can't understand other than your blabbering?
What's your epistemic foundation? I'm just asking in
reason,
with respect. What's your
reason?
How
is
do you
the
have
epistemic
reason?
foundation.
Dude, what you're just making assertions. So give me your epistemic understanding of reason.
Alan, thank you, Alan, for proving that you're not sincere. You're not engaged in a conversation. So here we go. We're going to mute you, and you're going to get schooled. Buckle up, Buttercup. You're calling in to assert that because we don't accept a proposition, some God exists, or a specific proposition that God X exists, this prevents us from grasping some concept about reality. but you haven't been able to show what that concept is. Instead, you want to pretend, I'm thinking this feels like you're trying to pretend that logical reasoning requires a grounding and therefore that's God. So let me ask you, I'll go ahead and unmute. Are you suggesting that logical reasoning requires a grounding and that is God? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, 100%. So like,
cool. So yeah, so I sniffed you out. I've done this for 23 years. You're beneath me. This is pedestrian stuff. So we don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism, and we don't have a solution to the problem of induction. We cannot show that, I'm going to say reason, hopefully it becomes clear, not reasoning, which is what you do, but reason, the package that you're engaged in when you reason. We have no way to demonstrate that reason is inviolate, that it is always reasonable, that it is always true. And so, for example, when Aristotle and his band of merry logicians evaluated all possible syllogistic forms to determine which structures were valid and which ones weren't, what they came up with is that these are valid because true premises must always lead to true conclusions. And Descartes attempted to solve the problem of solipsism with I think, therefore I am, is essentially saying, I know that I must exist because I'm experiencing it and I would have to be fooled. So that's where we get to new evil demon and all that stuff. I know you're nodding along thinking you understand it, but you don't. So Hobbes, I think, is the one that pointed out for the cogito that this was based on the primacy of reason. Nobody has solved this problem of induction, the problem essentially that reason is always reliable. However, we know that it is reliable because we use it. It's like picking up an ink pen. If I pick up an ink pen and I write with it, it works. I don't need to know how it works. I don't need to know if it will always work, but I do know that it's working now. In the case of reason, every single time we've used it, it has worked. Every single imagined time that we could use it, it has worked. You would have to assume that it works in order to try to show that it doesn't work. This is where we get to the paradox, and this is why we are prevented from saying reason is and always has been and always will be 100% reliable. So this is why I've said for ages that we do not have access to absolute certainty. Absolute certainty is a distraction. I don't see how it's possible. But what we do have is maximal certainty, which is we are as certain as we can be within the limits of how certain reason is. If it turns out that reason is absolute, which we can't demonstrate, then all that maximal certainty becomes absolute certainty. But you, because you've been listening to pill bros and theists who don't understand this, you guys think that you've solved the problem of reason. Hey, all you secular philosophers are stuck because you can't demonstrate that reason is absolute. But we know that it is because there's a God. Except that you don't know that it is, and you don't know there is a God, and you can't demonstrate how a God could make reason certain, or that reason is certain and therefore must require a God. It could be the case that reason is certain without a God. You just wouldn't have any way of knowing it. Might be the case that reason isn't certain with or without a God. You can't make that connection. But you guys tell yourself the comforting lie that you're on better footing and your justification for God, like it always is some gap in the understanding of the world. For a while, it was a gap in the understanding of biological variety. And then we modeled evolution by means of natural selection, and we We showed that, how life works. And then instead of demonstrating that, God created life, which you can't do, you decided, not you specifically, I'm lumping you in, and I think probably fairly, with a bunch of theists that bought into nonsense. You guys think that, the next course of attack is going to be, hey, let's poke holes in evolution, because if we poke more holes in evolution, that will leave room for our God. No, it doesn't. Evolution could be complete nonsense, and that doesn't offer any evidence for God did it. The same is true, by the way, with regard to morality, whether or not there's moral realism or not, whether or not there's objective moral standards, is completely independent from whether or not there is a God. But you guys seem to think that, no, there must be a God, otherwise you can't have this. Okay, maybe we don't have that. I've changed my view on this a little bit, just released another video on it the other day. And you're doing it all here again today. You guys are laughably predictable. You think you're incredibly smart, and you're not. You basically are smart enough to have smarted yourself into a stupid position and a stupid argument. Because you didn't come in and tell us what we can't understand because we don't believe in God. You didn't come in and make an evidence-based argument for your position. You came in with the smug prick confidence of, watch this, I'm going to show these atheists can't defend a position. If you'd have been honest from the beginning and said, hey, do you have a way to show that reason is absolute, inviolate? I would say no. And then I would have talked about this and how it doesn't matter. You think that by poking holes in somebody else's position and then pretending you have a solution that you can't demonstrate and never try to demonstrate, that you'll make points with people, that you got it cracked. You're wrong. And yet you just want to sit here and, throw stones and talk about, you don't know Greek, you're just rah, 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 rah. I know what I'm talking about, though, on epistemology. I know what the limits are with regard to science and what science is and isn't saying. Science isn't making proclamations of truth. Science is constructing models and theories that are the best current explanation, subject to revision when we get new information. That is all consistent with not knowing if reason is absolute or not. Now, if you disagree with this, then you should be able to come in and present the evidence-based argument that shows that your specific God is, in fact, the justification for reason. And if not, you're just going to keep throwing stones at somebody else's view, then you weren't listening and you don't understand that apparently, generally speaking in philosophy, we don't have a solution to the problem of induction or solipsism. That's why they get listed as the problem of, because we're still stuck with them. So I'm going to bring Alan back, and Alan should be able to present an evidence-based argument that shows that God, his specific God, is the foundation of reason. Hey, Alan, welcome back.
So, hey, thanks. So when I was listening to you, right, that what we're doing in this conversation, right, like you talked about, like.
No, I'm going to mute you. I don't need you to recap anything. Okay? You've already demonstrated that you are not good at this. I am graciously, despite the fact that I have another caller on hold and 15 minutes left, I'm graciously giving you a chance to prove to everybody here that you're not what you've appeared to be so far. And you can do that by giving the evidence-based argument that God is the foundation of reason. I don't need you to recap anything or talk about the conversation, because nothing about this conversation is remotely relevant to whether or not you can present an evidence-based argument that God is the foundation of reason. Let's try it again. Everybody, welcome back. Alan, he's going to give us the evidence-based argument for God being the foundation of reason.
When did I ever make that claim that I was going to make an evidence-based argument?
Oh, there we go. Thank you for admitting, by implication, that you're not. Yeah, you're not ready. Hey, can we put a poll up? Can we put a poll up to see if I'm going to put Alan back in the queue for a minute? And can the poll just be, should Alan get one more shot? I'm going to put you back in the queue, Alan, while you sit there and think about the fact that when you say that you're making the claim that God is the necessary. Oh, Alan ran away. Never mind. I guess Alan voted no.
Yep. I mean, he
Bummer.
couldn't make it a few seconds without getting muted again. Like, it's amazing.
This is what I want people to know. And this is why this is a very similar explanation that I gave a week or two ago. Here we go. People get frustrated by Phobros. Me too. But it's really nothing new. They're claiming to have the solution to deep problems, and they're unable to demonstrate that they have the solution to them. And so instead of presenting an evidence-based argument for their position, they will instead try to poke holes in other people's position. This is what they did with evolution. I can't show you creationism. I can't prove creationism. So I'm going to poke holes in evolution and hope that I managed to con enough people into believing it. I can't show you an absolute objective moral foundation. So I'm going to poke holes in whatever moral foundation goes. I can't prove that Jesus was divine. So I'm going to poke holes in whatever objections you have. I can't prove that logic is 100% reliable. So I'm going to poke holes in whether or not you can. So just admit it right from the get-go. I have no reason to think that I can, in fact, demonstrate that reason is absolutely certain. And it also doesn't matter for the same reason that I can't prove that the pen that I'm holding will write forever. As a matter of fact, I have good reason to think it might not, but it's useful now. And if you want to tell me that the pen will write forever because your magic best friend that you invented out of whole cloth makes it so, I still don't believe you. Let's keep using the pen and see what happens. Because even if it never stops working, that still doesn't mean it's because your magic friend made it not stop working. All right. Sorry. Corey is an atheist from Missouri, pronouns are him, and he's heard an argument he can't refute.
Hi, how are you?
Exhausted.
I bet. I know you got a very little time left, so I'll try to just summarize the argument from. So now this argument, it wasn't really an argument for theism or any specific religion. It was more an argument for deism, and I'll try to summarize it. The claim was that since we can, with the Big Bang, we can really know what happened nanoseconds after the Big Bang, but we don't really know what the cause, I guess the why of why the Big Bang happened, the source of the Big Bang. Then if it happened about naturally, or if it happened about through a creator, then everything we would have seen so far would still make sense either way. So for I guess, man, that's kind of confusing. A good way to put it would be like when we used to look at rainbows and think it was, God's promise or whatever. But then when we looked into it more, we would see, no, it had a naturalistic origin of refracted light, etc. But if God had created the universe, or if a creator had created the universe and created it the way that he wanted to by creating the laws of physics, then all we should ever expect to see would be naturalism. Therefore, there's just as much evidence of a created universe as there is a naturalistic occurring one.
No. The way that argument is structured, it's essentially claiming that if there was a creator who intentionally prevented you from having access to evidence of its existence, the universe would look the same as if that creator did not exist, right?
Yeah, kind of. The way he put it was like, if just because we can watch a tree bear fruit and then create more trees doesn't mean the first tree wasn't planted.
Okay. The point is not so ask them. I'm assuming you may interact with them again. I can't prove to you that the first tree wasn't planted. but it would be irrational to believe that it was planted because you do not have evidence to support reaching that conclusion. If you think, if it is the case that a divine intelligence could create a universe and completely hide its participation in it, such that the participants in that reality have no more reason to conclude that that being was involved than they do for that being was not involved, then that is an admission they cannot have justification to believe that being was involved. They're trying to pretend that those of us who are non-believers in a God or creator are saying there is no creator, and that's not the case. I have no idea if there's a creator or not. I do not believe there's a creator because there isn't evidence as a creator. In fact, in some cases, depending on how gods are defined, I have good reason to think they're not there. But if you're going back to that, what they're saying is, I, as a non-believer, don't have, if I want to say I don't have a good reason to believe there is a creator, then we're on equal footing, except we're not. And Occam's razor is the demonstration of that, because they're adding, I know the universe exists, and so do they. I know that there's some description of the universe that is an accurate description of how it came to be. I don't know what it is. They are claiming it's a God, and then they want to pretend that because we can't prove it's not, we're on equal footing. No, they believe something that is unfalsifiable, and that's the mistake.
Now, wouldn't a reply to that be, because I can see him now saying, well, it coming about naturally is also unfalsifiable. There's no reason to think that it came about. There's no evidence to support that it came about naturally.
Okay. We have nothing other than the natural to appeal to. There is no evidence of anything other than natural. And the universe may be eternal, which means it didn't come about. So the only thing we have is a state of affairs of the expansion of the universe and change within the universe, all of which is natural, all of which is natural law, all of which is at least reasonably understood. And at no point has anything other than the natural world been demonstrated to be real. And until it is, it doesn't get to be considered a candidate explanation for anything, the origin of the universe or anything within it. So no, it's not the case that we're on equal footing, because once again, it's like every mind we've ever interacted with has been the product of a brain. Every plan has been the product of an intelligence. Every cell phone has been designed and created by something natural. What is their justification for appealing to the non-natural when they have no evidence that the non-natural is possible, plausible, or likely?
Yeah, I was going to I was going to go in the direction that Matt just went, in that the way that I typically think about it is that there's never been a case in the past where a supernatural explanation has overridden a natural one. So if you think about all the different times we've had a supernatural explanation, it's always been better explained by a natural one. So like the likelihood that a supernatural explanation is going to be better than a natural one is just, next to nothing. And
not only that, it keeps getting worse.
Well, I think
every time throughout history that somebody has proposed a supernatural explanation something, and we have been able to find the right answer, it's never been supernatural. Now, maybe tomorrow they'll finally find a way to demonstrate the supernatural actually exists. But until they do, their justification is just as plausible and defensible for a God as it is for a universe creating pixies, or I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have no evidence for the supernatural, so they don't get to appeal to it.
I think what he was trying to claim, though, was that all of our experiences discovering the natural, we've said every time we've looked at something, it has had a naturalistic explanation. He was saying that that is not any support that the universe itself has a naturalistic origin, because if we hypothesize that it didn't have a natural,
we didn't say that.
All we would expect is
I already addressed this. We're not claiming that the supernatural doesn't exist. We're not claiming that the supernatural isn't responsible. We're saying it's not reasonable, it's not warranted to believe that it is.
Right.
I'm not saying the origin of the universe is not natural. I just have no reason to believe it's anything other than natural, but also we don't know that the universe had an origin.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a burden shift there, because like it's not on naturalists to have to prove the naturalistic position or whatnot, because the naturalistic position, as we've laid out, is kind of like how it's always been. So if you have a different outcome or a different explanation that better explains it, then it's incumbent upon you to bring that explanation that would supersede the naturalistic one. So like, I wouldn't let anybody try to shift that burden on you and try to make you justify naturalism or say that, well, naturalism and supernatural shit is indistinguishable from one another at that point, because the supernatural part definitely has to be distinguishable from naturalism. Otherwise it's just nature. Otherwise it's just naturalism.
Right.
Here's the thing. Have you heard of ball lightning?
I have not.
You should go watch some videos on ball lightning. It is a rare phenomenon where a ball of something that could be like lightning or plasma or whatever will appear. We don't know what causes it, or at least unless somebody has come up with something recently that I'm unaware of. We don't know what causes it. So I'm a skeptic. I'm not saying that ball lightning is absolutely natural in origin. I'm saying I don't have any reason to believe it's not natural in origin. If somebody comes up to me and says, yeah, but you can't prove it's not supernatural, and I believe it's supernatural, therefore we're on the same footing. No, we're fucking not. Because you've reached a conclusion about the position you have no evidence for. And I've said, I'm not reaching a conclusion about what its actual origin is. But until you demonstrate that it is supernatural, or that the supernatural is possible or probable or whatever else, I don't even get to consider that a candidate until you do. And there's tons of mysteries like ball lightning. Skeptics aren't saying, and by the way, science isn't dependent on philosophical naturalism. I'm not a philosophical naturalist. I am not asserting the natural world is all that exists. And that's what they tend to argue against. They tend to argue against philosophical naturalism, the assertion that the natural world is all there is, instead of methodological naturalism, which is the natural world is all we get to address because we have no interaction, no identifiable interaction with anything but the natural world. So I'm not a philosophical naturalist.
Okay.
Although
that makes sense.
I think that every time we learn more about how the world works, philosophical naturalism gets more likely to be the right answer.
Right.
And supernaturalism gets less likely. But we have run out of time, Corey.
Yep. Thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure. Good luck talking to them. Hey, John, did we learn anything today?
I mean, I learned that, theists, they'll crash out immediately, and they'll also start talking like 13-year-olds if you say a curse word at them. That's what I learned. What did you learn, Matt?
I learned that I still don't have the capability at all times to want to maintain my Zen. I found there are people that I like to go at, and I'm disappointed a little with how I handled Kevin on a couple of things, except that Kevin kept coming on hot and crashing hot and just absolutely would not listen. I really need to stop. Like Arden would prefer that I stop saying shut up ever. And I think she's right. And I'm trying to do that. But I also like to not have to, I not like to get so frustrated that I just call a stupid person stupid. Instead, I try to help make the stupid person not stupid. Somebody's going to be like, dude, do you not understand? Yes, I understand exactly what I just said and why. On that note,
I mean, I guess I could really sense the Dunning-Kruger pretty hard. I believe it was with Kevin when he starts talking about bits of information and code and everything like that. Like I get that thrown my way so often because I am a software engineer that it really frustrates me whenever somebody starts trying to act like they know what they're talking about when they can't even just simply define the words that they use.
Yep. All right. Well, we're sending you over, I guess, to a calling it now. Is that right, Arden?
Yep.
Cool. Stick around. You'll automatically be ported over on whatever device you're on. Huge thank you to everybody for tuning in and to the handful of callers we got in, especially the ones that were actually honest and sincere and productive calls. And to the rest of you, try harder. You know, I'm sorry that your Philbro stuff is like basic. And I don't want to engage with basic bitches. Patreon.com/call the line.